right, and we're back.
We are back.
Round 2 with Jeff Smith from Colorado Craft Beef. And we're just kind of hitting this blind.
Yeah. I mean, I showed up with a couple of big bags of beef that you bought and a bunch of extras because you said you were a Traeger guy, so there's more stuff in the bag that you didn't see.
Well, let me clarify. I have a Traeger. I love brisket, but my guy is my homie Jordan.
Oh.
And that's who, like, he uses my Traeger, and he's showed us the ropes, and he always makes really good brisket. But if I take credit for the electric jiu-jitsu briskets, he's coming for me. And he's a collegiate wrestler. I don't want him on my bad side.
Oh, 100%. So that sounds like when I was in college, and I didn't have a lot of money, but a bunch of my buddies did, but I could cook.
Yeah.
So they would bring all the food to my house so I could make dinner, but I wouldn't have to pay for anything. It's totally worth it.
Dude, it's fucking win-win for everybody, dude.
Yeah. Except the sons of bitches didn't help with dishes. They just leave me with the mess.
Well, I'm experiencing that lately with my kids. They are 9, 12, and 15, and just throw everything in the sink and leave. And it happens every fucking night. And I have to call them back down and be like, hey, listen, I'm not your guys' slave. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're sorry. Next day, same thing. So I know I'm doing pretty good in the parenting realm in some aspects, but I'm failing with dishes big time.
You know, if that's the L.
I know, right? Yeah,
worse, right?
Exactly. So yeah, we just got back from Hawaii actually at 2 a.m. today.
Okay.
And went right home, slept until 11, and it felt fucking amazing.
Right.
And then came to the gym, and I haven't been here in a week. And bro,
so it felt like your kids were here and left the dishes out.
Basically, that's yeah. You saw me, dude. And here's the thing, man. Like, I know that I have a good group of guys and gals that make this place run when I'm not here, but no one takes care of your baby the way that you do.
100%.
And so it's like, oh, there's dust over here. Oh, this is moved over here. Oh, this looks like it's a little out of place. So I'm just coming down off of 2 hours of anxiety. Now we're going to kick it and have a good podcast. And then we're going to hit some X-Guard tonight. That's what's on the curriculum.
X-Guard, man, that's not fat guy friendly, but I can make it work.
I'll tell you what, man. X-Guard is something that, because my coach is a big, thick 225-pound gorilla, and he's an expert at X-Guard.
Really?
And he's really figured out a way to make it work for him very well. As long as you have the dexterity to pull your legs underneath someone and bite onto that far leg. Do you play X-Guard at all?
I do more De La Hiva.
Okay.
And I'll go to single leg X.
Yep.
The X, I just get too spread out.
Yeah. And you're a big dude, and it's X is in relation to how large you are in comparison to the person you're trying to get underneath.
Yeah.
Right? You try and play X-Guard with a guy like Mikey Musumeci size. Good luck.
Yeah, like I'll play the De La Hiva where I can get a knee in and push them over.
Yeah.
And you can just spread them out and other bases all jacked.
Yep.
But for somebody to let me get all the way to full X, they're sleeping because I'm just not that mobile.
All right. Well, we actually have some pretty cool entries into X where you like have double butterfly hooks, load their weight up, and then grab one leg and turn them. And you're a big, strong dude. I bet it's going to work for you. So
sure. This
trip is going to be worth it for you for that little fucking nugget alone.
Dude, we just came back from Origin Camp. So we were at Origin Jiu-Jitsu Camp.
Dude, yeah, we can talk about that for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
I want to hear all about it, dude.
Watching Tim Kennedy teach smother chokes for an hour was worth the flight to Maine.
Oh, I bet, dude.
Oh, he was. So I got my blue belt in December.
Congrats, dude.
And Tim was there, said hi to him at breakfast. And then I go to the blue belt instructional on gi, and Tim's there. And I'm like, oh, this is about to get interesting.
So are the blocks of instruction broken down by belt?
They have mats for different belts.
Okay.
So, I mean, there was like 150 white belts, like 120 blue belts. Purple and brown belt were together, and that was probably like 80 people, maybe 100. And then they have a black belt mat. So there's individual instruction across the camp.
Wow.
And they'll do gi, no gi. Mats are always open. But watching people line up to get smother choked by Tim, I was like, man, you guys gluttons for punishment.
Bro, I've heard, and the thing is, I've known a handful of people. I've been doing jiu-jitsu and martial arts for over 20 years now. So I've had a handful of guys I've known that have made it into the UFC, right? And I can tell you, it doesn't matter how tough you are on the local scene or like the state scene. Once you get into the UFC, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
And for Tim Kennedy to be, I mean, he was contender level.
Mhm.
He could have been just, if the cards had played out differently, he was a championship level fighter.
100%.
And, like the bullshit with Yoel Romero, and he had a couple things not go his way. But now that like he's moved away from mixed martial arts and is more of a full-time jiu-jitsu guy, I'm getting more feedback from guys, especially Greg Lappin. Like, he's connected with the Fieldcraft guys, and he's like, bro, when he puts his hands on you, it's one of the fucking strongest human beings you've ever grappled with.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a guy. I mean, I don't know if you ever met Greg Lappin?
I haven't met Greg.
Okay, so Greg Lappin's 180 pounds, but same thing. Like, super athlete, freakishly strong, incredible shape. And when he says that about someone, I mean, that's...
Yeah, you better take it to the bank.
Yeah.
Dude, the funniest part, Tim taught different types of smother chokes for an hour, full hour of instruction.
And then I'm jealous of that, man.
Yeah, and then he talked about the ethics of the smother choke, because he's like, and if you're traveling to other gyms, maybe use this sparingly, or you're gonna get enforced. I was like, okay, because in his comment, he's like, dude, at my gym, it's prison rules, and I train at Denver Compound. It's prison rules.
Yes,
wrist locks are encouraged at white belt. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
We do follow heel hooks because you don't want to get anybody hurt, but it's like, oh, you tap to pressure, deal. It sucks. And watching Tim go through this for like an hour, then he starts opening up to questions. And I feel bad if the guy listens to this podcast, but there's a dude in the room, raises his hand, and Tim's like, yes, sir. And he goes, Mr. Kennedy, when you get the arm all the way up and you're trying to work a head and arm choke and you're trying to do the smother, I don't feel it works very well. And I was like, oh, so in typical Ranger fashion, Tim goes, I disagree. Come here. And proceeds to smash this guy for like 90 seconds. And the guy's like, I take back my prior statement.
Yeah.
I think I was doing it wrong. He's like, there you go. And
dude, we call it mother's milk here. You've heard that verbiage as well.
Tim said that's what they call it in their gym too.
So mother's milk has been something that's, it's been on my radar for a while, but now there's guys, I mean, you just said it. Tim Kennedy, one of the highest level martial artists around, did a seminar for, did you say an hour or 2 hours?
An hour.
An hour. Talking about the details of mother's milk. And one of my black belts, who is just an absolute savage, that's become his go-to. And him and I fucking sat down, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and he talked to me about how he drives one hip down and then actually loosens the other leg, but tries to grapevine it. Like, there's a bunch of little details to lock the hips down, and then the way that you walk the arms up and the way that you create pressure with mother's milk is a science. Because jiu-jitsu, I always call it my gym invisible jiu-jitsu. Because you can see a guy having a guy mounted and another guy having another guy mounted right next to each other, but the people on the bottom could be having vastly different experiences based on invisible jiu-jitsu. How's the weight being distributed? Where are the pressure points? And Boucher actually came up here and taught some pressure stuff too about, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago or something. And there's a science to it. Just like there's a science to everything in jiu-jitsu. The little angles, the little pressure points. But the fucked up thing about mother's milk, it's half suffocation and half anxiety.
Yeah, it's just psyops.
That's exactly right, dude.
That's how Tim explained it. He said, when he's trying to do it, he wants you to find the opening to put your face so you can get a half a breath.
Yes.
And he goes, and you're only going to get a half a breath. And then my elbow is going to come across, or I'm going to drop the shoulder. And he goes, because every time you start to get a breath, I want to demoralize you.
Yes.
I want to make you hate life. He goes, and only when I've done that for a minute or two do I even try a submission, because I'm just torturing you. I'm like, God, Tim, you're sadistic as hell, but I love it.
Bro, it's I call it cooking people. Yeah. Because like if you get in a dominant position, and I mean, I'm an armbar guy.
No way.
If I just jump onto an arm and you haven't cooked them a little bit, their ability to escape is exponentially greater.
And their desire to escape.
Of course.
Because if you've cooked them for 2 minutes.
So, I was just going to say, if you cook people well enough, they'll actually give you the submission, because it's like, fuck, you know what? I would rather be armbarred than be underneath this for another minute. And it's so funny that I love talking about this, because people don't understand what we're saying if they haven't been there before. It's like, if I get on top of you and start mother's milking you, and it's like, hey, we're friends, we've trained together, we've podcasted before, like we know each other a little bit. Your brain doesn't recognize any of that stuff.
No.
Your brain says, there's this fucking man on top of me and he's killing me.
Yeah.
And I have to get out now. And if you can fight that urge to quit, the farther you can push that out, man, you literally every time you go through that, you level up, become a little bit stronger version of yourself. And, people have heard me say it 100 times on the podcast. I hate that, that saying in jiu-jitsu, you can't teach heart.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree because you put yourself underneath Tim Kennedy's mother's milk enough times, you start to become more and more resilient to it. And you'll get to the point where you can just be fucking smashed. And the reason I know this is because I trained with Buchecha every single night for years. I know what it's like to be the fucking nail and have the hammer just absolutely take your fucking soul every day for, it was years. And I never even got any closer to having any success with him because he is who he is. But what I found is, even though I couldn't do anything about it, I started to find more comfort inside of it. And bro, that's a big thing, man.
Yeah. Well, it's business, it's whatever.
Yes.
What's that saying? If you're not scared of what you're trying to achieve, you're not looking high enough. Same deal. I mean, you're going to go roll with a nasty brown belt that you know is going to wreck you. I'm thinking of a guy in our gym. His name is Bully Taylor.
Did you say bully?
That's what we call him, Bully Taylor. Because we have cool purple belt Taylor that's super chill, and then we have Bully Taylor, who's just an animal. And if you are a new white belt, he will wreck you the same as he wrecks a purple belt.
Oh, he gives the business to the new white belts,
to everybody. He gives the business to black belts too. Like, because he's like 6'4" and super fit and just lanky, and he's just a son of a bitch to roll with. But every time I roll with him, I'm trying something else and just getting wrecked. And he loves the arm bars. I'd love to watch you two roll. That'd be pretty funny to watch.
Yeah, bring out Bully Taylor.
But his ability for hip movement, everything else, I'm like, I can't defend that yet.
What's your home gym called again?
Compound in Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah,
bro. And like you just said, what Tim referenced saying at our gym, it's prison rules, bro. My gym is prison rules too, because, and don't get me wrong, there are things that are, we talk about like first date rules. If you don't know somebody or you've never trained with them before, especially like Tim said, if you're visiting somewhere and you're trying to mother's milk everybody, like that's going to be frowned upon a little bit, right?
Somebody's going to change your attitude.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing about jiu-jitsu is everything that works should be on the table. Because if we start to say, oh, you can't do this and you shouldn't do that, it starts to water down the game. And now you're losing viable moves just because of what? Because you feel like people feel like you're an asshole if you do it to them. The solution to that is don't let them do it to you. And so I tell my guys, you want a heel hook? Go ahead. You want a fucking wrist lock? Go ahead. You want a mother's milk? Go ahead. But just know your training partner, right? Like, cause my gym has gotten to the size you'll see tonight. It's already grown exponentially since last time you were here. Man, we got 50-year-old ladies here. We got guys that haven't been athletes ever in their life, and they're just now delving into something for the first time, and they work at Boeing. And it's like, is that the guy? And is that the gal that you should be mother's milking? Probably not. Right. So like, just know your audience.
Yeah. You got to feel the room out. Right.
Exactly.
Like, there was a guy at our gym like a month ago, smaller guy, maybe 160, 170 pounds, which doesn't sound like a smaller guy, but for me, that's a smaller guy.
Yeah.
And had no stripes on a white belt. I was like, okay, we're going to roll. I'm going to take it easy. Turns out the dude is a fucking brown belt in judo.
Okay.
And he goes full ham. I don't even know I'm in a fight until he's got my back.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy crap. And bow and arrow, like you just snapped it in. And I was like, hold on. I misread this altogether. Yeah. That's on me. He got me. Now the next rolls, I knew what was going on. We talked after. Just crazy sharp guy. He's got like a PhD from a mining college. Just a savage. But I didn't know.
You didn't know. Yeah.
But to your point, the thing, my coach is Morrison Butler. And if you look him up on YouTube, he got nailed with a bicep slicer back in the day. and it sounds like a gun going off in that gym.
Oh,
it was
fuck.
crazy. But he told me, and I had to take this to heart. It was hard for me because as a bigger guy, I'm trying not to be heavy. I'm trying not to just be a big guy. I'm trying to have better technique. I'm trying to do whatever. And at some point that's okay. But then you get elevated enough that you owe it to your training partners. This is Morrison's quote. You owe it to your training partners to bring it, or you're doing them and yourself a disservice.
100%, man.
And I was like, okay. And he goes, if you're trying to take it easy on another blue belt, like we've got a guy in our gym we've got a lot of judo guys in our gym that just kind of hang. But, it's a blue belt in judo, but he's also, a brown belt, or excuse me, a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, but a brown belt in judo.
A lot of grappling. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're smaller guys, and you're like, I can't take it soft on them or I'm going to be strangled. But you learn through that. But like coming in here to your gym, I'm going to feel it out. And after you have, the first roll with a guy in a 6-minute round, because you guys do 6 this year, right? Then maybe we'll step it up. We're not just going to come out full ham sandwich.
Well, and you can I'll give you the thumbs up or the thumbs down if you can just go fucking full ham sandwich.
Dude, I actually, one of the things Tim was teaching, we did a Kimura sweep.
Okay.
And so you go from the Kimura, you do the forward roll. And I went to do the forward roll and the guy moved and I kind of tweaked my neck just a little bit. And it's not hurt by any means, but it's just kind of twingy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And I actually just came from Dr. Baker's place, went up there and had some steak on the way here.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, I'm doing all this other stuff. And at jiu-jitsu, you're just kind of always beat up in some form or fashion. I was like, oh, 100%. And he's like, I got other stuff to focus on, but tell Greg I'll be back.
You better be back. I miss that motherfucker.
Yeah.
I mean, Sean was very consistent before he got hurt.
Mhm.
Like he was all in with jiu-jitsu. It was good to see, man. But that's also just the reality of jiu-jitsu. There's seasons of jiu-jitsu, and when you get hurt, you can do what you can do. And he's had to take a substantial break. It's been, 8 months now or something?
I know, it was a year. I was here a year ago.
Oh, it's already been a year,
yeah.
huh? Fuck, man.
Yeah, he said it was August 10th, so just over a year.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. One thing like your professor says, like, I don't remember exactly how you articulate it, but like, don't use your size out of the gates, but eventually like you want to be using that, right? Like I tell people, man, like for a small guy to be like, oh, well, he's just big and that's why it works. Well, you're just small. That's why your jiu-jitsu works.
Yeah.
You're fast. You have a good gas tank, right? Like everybody has their different physical gifts and their physical ailments, and you have to make it work with what you have. So I tell my big guys, like exactly what you said, hone your guard, hone your technique, learn all the angles, learn to be light, because if you can learn to be light, then it allows you to really have control of the dial to where you can turn it up or down. But just because you're learning technique and you're learning to be light, don't misconstrue that for me saying, don't use your weight, don't use your pressure. Like that's your physical gift.
Yeah.
And so once you understand the dichotomy of those two things, that's part of giving people the business.
Yeah. And Morrison's other comment, there's another guy in our gym, DJ, who's just one of those natural athletes, like just got promoted to purple belt. He's crazy fast. And he goes, do you think DJ slows it down because you're not as fast as him?
Yes, that's exactly right.
He's like, you use what you got.
Yep.
And he goes, and you better learn to use it correctly, or those fast guys are going to be gone before you realize they're gone.
Yeah.
I was like, check.
Leo Vieira, the founder of Checkmat, one of his quotes, he told me when he was up here, he goes, the second I lock horns with someone, I make the assessment. Am I stronger than them or am I faster than them? And he goes, and then I play the game that's best suited to beat that person, using either strength or speed. He goes, but when you lock horns with someone and you can feel that they're both stronger and faster than you, we just call that a bad day on the mats.
Close guard.
Yeah.
Get to close guard and hold them tight. Yeah. So, oh man, jiu-jitsu is so much fun. I mean,
are you able to train a little more lately? I remember last time you were so busy. It was like you were squeezing in like once a week or something.
I'm still once a week, but usually I'm up for like a 60 or 90-minute class, and then I do a private.
Okay. So you're getting a lot of mat time in that session.
I'm getting a lot of mat time, but similar to what we talked about last time, I have this level of understanding of how to drill a ton of shit that I can't employ yet.
Yeah.
And I'm slowly catching up with that, learning how to pull more stuff in, kind of learning what my game is. I think that's the weird part.
Well, that's the big journey of blue belt.
Yeah. Well, and I had
You
a guy at Origin Camp. He asked me, he was a white belt and he's a customer of ours. Just came and sat down and he's like, "Oh, you got your blue belt. That's awesome." He goes, "What do you think the blue belt means?" I said, "Dude, I still feel like a white belt. But what I would say is, for me, blue belt is proof to everybody that's above me that I took the beating.
Yeah.
That's all it's worth.
Yeah.
I can't say my jujitsu is better, but I took the beating." And he's like, "Okay." I said, "And I think that's different for every school." I said, "But that's how I view it. And I think that's how other people in the community view it. But I'm just advanced enough in jujitsu to know I don't know shit."
Well, yeah, but this is what I say about blue belts, because a day one white belt versus a day one blue belt, right? You have a very comprehensive knowledge of really what jujitsu is.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, like, a blue belt, there are some blue belts that are very good at jujitsu, and then there's some blue belts that kind of suck at jujitsu, and then there's everything in between. But I would say if you have a blue belt around your waist, you have a pretty comprehensive understanding of what jujitsu is, meaning you know all the positions, you know side control, you know mount, you know back control, you know where you want to be and where you don't want to be,
Mm-hmm.
and you know the paths from where you don't want to be to where you want to be. Like, you understand the concept, like, I'm underneath this guy, I need to sweep him, or I'm inside of this guy's guard, I need to pass the guard. And there's so much knowledge in all of that maybe you almost take for granted because it's been such a slow process obtaining all of that knowledge.
I think that checks out. Like,
But
I don't know what's there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But think about, like, how much jujitsu knowledge you have, regardless of how well you can employ it. But just the fact that you understand how the game is played. Because, dude, remember when you were new? Or I hear this almost every day. Like, when I'm rolling with guys that are new, I'll sweep them and end up and say, like, sweep to mount, right? And they'll just look up at me and go, I don't know what to do here. You know?
Oh, dude. Do you know Dan Hart?
Dan Hart.
He's a black belt under Henry.
Okay.
And that's who recommended me to Compound. He's buddies with, like, Kerry Trainer. He has a gym in Chicago.
Okay.
And we were at Kerry Trainer's shooting event last fall, and Dan got to mount, and Dan is just a monster. And I look at him. This is 3 weeks before I got my blue belt. I go, "Hey, man, I'm trying what I know. It's clearly not working. You're still there. What do you think?" And he goes, "I think you should get out." I was like, "Dude, you're killing me." I was thinking the exact same thing. It's just not working out.
It's so funny. I've had students say very similar things to me. They're like, because mount is becoming, like, I'm really geeking out on a very heavy pressure mount, kind of like what we talked about with the mother's milk stuff, but not only for submission purposes, but for just control purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have one of my blue belts mounted, and I forget who it was, but he's like, "Hey, none of the escapes that you taught are working."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Hey, welcome to jiu-jitsu, man."
Yeah.
It's because I have 21 years of jiu-jitsu and you have 2. That's why.
Yeah. Well,
It's not that they work or that they don't work. It's that the person that has a better understanding of jiu-jitsu can impose his will, and the person that doesn't can't.
Yeah.
And it's not a, "Hey, do you know this move? Does it work?" It doesn't. It works on some people, and it doesn't work on other people.
Right. And the one thing Dan shared with me that I thought was really helpful, he goes, "Dude, I know what you're doing. I know all the same moves." He goes, "But you're trying to do an explosive trap bridge and roll.
Yeah.
I see that coming from 10 miles away."
Yeah.
He goes, "You can't do those big telegraph moves to a higher belt." He goes, "You need to make micro adjustments. You need to get a knee and an elbow together." He's like, "Don't think you're going to get some highlight reel sweep on a black belt." He goes, "Take what you can get. Quit being greedy." I was like, "Oh shit, that's a nugget." Like,
yeah.
He's like, "No, you're not gonna do something crazy and get me where I don't see it coming. But you can work through it in smaller increments and make it functional."
For
I was
sure.
like, crap. And that was something I was like, "Oh man, okay."
Bro, that knee to elbow, like, it seems like such a simple concept, but if you can weld your knee to your elbow, you just re-guarded basically.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're trying to pass and your knee is welded to your elbow, they can't pass your guard. And Mikey Musumeci talks about this, is like, it has nothing to do with your knee or your elbow, but what it does is it builds a wall between your opponent and your hip.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can control the side of your hip, now they own you. If they can't control they can't pass your guard fully and start to control you. And all those little tiny details, bro, I mean, I'm 21 years in and I'm still learning that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Well, and what I've found, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, if I start focusing on XYZ, whatever it is, I'm focusing on regarding from side control. I'll focus on that so much I start to lose something else. Like you're constantly putting stuff in the bank.
100%.
But then you're like, oh shit, I should have been doing whatever.
Yep.
And just as you work, you lose parts of it, and parts of it come into your game and out of your game.
I always say I've forgotten way more jiu-jitsu than I know. Because, and here's the thing too, it's like everybody's brain has a different capacity for retaining knowledge.
Especially when you have no oxygen.
Yeah. Dude, there's some guys that are encyclopedias. But the thing is about your jiu-jitsu, you can have an encyclopedia understanding of jiu-jitsu, but what can you access right now?
Mm-hmm.
And by right now, I mean, you access it instinctually. If
Yeah.
you have to think about, oh, this guy's passing my guard, what am I going to do? It's too late.
Yeah.
If you have to think about it, it's too late.
Do you use the term lizard brain?
Yes.
That's what most of our black belts talk. They're like, well, you need it in your lizard brain. Like, same concept. You can't be thinking about it. It is an instinctual move. Oh, they started a back take. I'm going to get their head or arm to the other side. I'm going to push against them. Like, you don't think about it. If you're thinking about it, you're smoked.
Exactly. And so my jiu-jitsu, I would say I have a pretty comprehensive base of jiu-jitsu that I can teach.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have all kinds of stuff that I can teach. But when I'm actually rolling, dude, my jiu-jitsu goes down probably 70%. And I really have I don't have very many hubs that I work from. And what I find is it's like, you know, some of the greatest guys of all time, Roger Gracie being one of them, very similar. He doesn't have a very comprehensive game. He has a very simple game. And then you have Keenan Cornelius that has a very comprehensive game and has had a lot of success in competition with that. Or the Mendez brothers, very comprehensive game. And so there isn't right or wrong.
Mm-hmm. There's
build your jiu-jitsu, and you're gonna see what works for you, what doesn't for you, and then build your game based on that. I think you really start to build your game at purple belt. Like at blue belt, you kind of find yourself. You kind of come into your own. You grow into this person that has like I said, has a comprehensive understanding of jiu-jitsu. And now you're working all these different things. And you just said it, man, I feel like I've forgotten some stuff. That's normal. Right. Because you won't forget your favorite sweep. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, oh, this works for me. Oh, I'm hitting this here. Oh, I'm hitting it there. Like for me, that's butterfly. I'll never forget butterfly. I've been hitting butterfly for 20 years now, and I continue to hone that. But you will forget a lot of stuff that maybe you didn't have a ton of success with. But what's interesting is you'll circle back to that, and in 2 years, you'll have one of your professors teaching a block of instructions on something, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. And then you'll try it, and it works because it's already in there.
So it wasn't time for that puzzle piece yet.
Exactly. That's right, dude.
Yeah. Sometimes it just got to be stacked correctly.
Yep. Yeah. And it's that's just what continues to make the journey fascinating.
It's wild. I mean, it is obviously wife and kids are top priority, but jiu-jitsu is
just underneath them.
Jiu-jitsu is what keeps me sane.
100%,
with
dude.
All the business stuff and all the stuff. And I don't even mean that in a bad way, just life. Jiu-jitsu for me is where I go clean off my whiteboard.
100%.
I leave the gym. I'm too tired to even flip off bad Denver drivers. and I just head to the ranch. Usually I'm there on Tuesday or Wednesday. It's a break in the middle of the week to clear the whiteboard. And not to mention, I've yet to find a guy at any jiu-jitsu gym that I wouldn't go have a beer with.
100%.
It's just good camaraderie, and you can go to Origin Camp or you can go to wherever. I'm sure we can go to Lappin's gym and just walk in and everybody's chill.
Bro, you can't do jiu-jitsu and be a full of shit person.
Yeah.
You just can't be. Like, and it's funny because I sometimes think like, fuck man, I talk about jiu-jitsu too much on the podcast. And then when I don't talk about jiu-jitsu enough, people are like, hey, when are you going to start talking about jiu-jitsu again?
Right.
But you can't be a full of shit person on the mats
Mm-hmm.
because you really have to put yourself out there. You have to be vulnerable. And through that process, everybody knows your strengths and your weaknesses. And it's like, hey, and everybody knows who kicks whose ass. And what it does is it makes an environment where everybody can just fucking relax.
Yeah.
And it's like,
there's no posturing.
There's no posturing. We don't need to be measuring dicks because it's like, I know that I beat that guy and that guy beats me and that me and that guy are like a coin toss. We all have this understanding of who each other is and what it brings to the table. And like, and here's this thing that people that don't do this might not really be able to comprehend what I'm saying. Like, if I can look at a guy and be like, dude, I can kick that guy's ass. That doesn't like empower me or make me feel badass. I'm saying it's an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
There's no negative emotions around it. It's actually kind of freeing because it's like, okay, we understand how we match up. Both people get to have that understanding of how we match up. And it's the exact same for the guys that can beat the shit out of me. Like my coach, Joao, like I know exactly how we match up and it's like, okay, perfect. Like it allows you to have an intimate understanding of who your friends are.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other side of it is you see your friends going through adversity. Dude, how does he handle when he's really tired? Or how does he handle when he's winning and then he starts and then you sweep him and now he's losing? Like all of these different scenarios that elicit an emotional response, you get to see that in your training partners minute by minute on the mats. And it's an intimate understanding of each other. I don't know anywhere else you can acquire that with people.
Yeah. Well, especially at full speed, right?
Yeah.
If we're going to go box, we can't go full speed. We'll all have CTE next week.
Of course.
Same thing with Muay Thai. You know, your thighs are going to be detonated. Your calves are going to be shredded. Like you can spar, but there's no true test, right? You don't know.
Yeah. Unless
maybe you can, maybe you just go ham sandwich one day, you get pissed or whatever it is. But every day in jiu-jitsu, you're turning it on. And you might have an off day where you're like, man, I'm only going 70%. I'm wrecked. I maybe just got home from a hunting trip in Hawaii and it's going to be a long day or something.
And you know what? Sometimes those days are your best performances too.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I'm not going to set a bunch of expectations on myself. I'm feeling a little tired or beat up. And it allows you to have freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like when you feel like a world beater and you bring that energy to the mats and it doesn't go your way, now it's like, oh, fuck, dude.
So what do you recommend to your students when, you know, hey, they're coming in, maybe they've been training 6 months, right? They're not new. They don't know a lot yet. Like what mental space do you want a student to be in to learn the best? Or do you have a hope for that?
I tell my students that the biggest thing that I expect out of them is consistency. Like, I don't really care how your day went. Don't get me wrong. Obviously I care. Like we're all friends here. Like we're here to support each other. But what I'm saying that in relation to how and when you train, like don't allow the outside things of life to dictate how often you show up, when you show up. Like try and build a schedule. And I tell my guys that my magic number is 3 or more days a week. And try and build your schedule around that. And for some people like you, it's 1 day a week, right? Because you got to drive 100 miles or whatever it is. But think about your 1 day a week that's committed to jiu-jitsu. It shouldn't matter how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't matter if you feel tired or if you didn't get much sleep last night or if you feel fucking great. Like, hey, this is the time that I dedicate to jiu-jitsu and I'm going no matter what, outside of being like super ill or something like that, right?
Right.
And so what I find is once people just build jiu-jitsu as more of a pattern than something that they kind of decide if they're going to go or not based on how they feel, that's where the magic starts to happen because it's not a choice. It's just, this is what I'm doing. This is my commitment to myself.
So you encourage intentionality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, because it's easy to want to show up when you feel great.
Mm-hmm.
Like those days when nothing's aching and you're hydrated and you ate a bunch of good food and it's like, oh fuck yeah, let's go to the gym. It's easy to show up on those days. But all the other days, I mean, there's a million reasons I used to tell myself why I shouldn't go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
even like as a brown belt. Like obviously anymore, I don't have a choice. I have to be here because someone has to unlock the door. But even as a brown belt under Joao and under Bashesha, all the time I'm driving home from work and I'm like coming up with excuses why I shouldn't go. It's like, oh, well, you haven't seen your kids much this week and you had to work late and you had to get up early for this. And it's like, you start to make all these reasons why you shouldn't go to practice. And like 99.9% of the time, I would just have that discussion with myself and then call myself a pussy and drive to the gym. And like that became like almost a nightly thing.
Right.
And so I don't know if that's how it is for a lot of people, but I had to use intentionality very, very often to get to where I got in jiu-jitsu. And I just don't think it's like anything that you commit to, parenting, business, whatever it is. There's plenty of times when you don't want to be there doing it.
Yeah.
And if you allow jiu-jitsu to be something you only do when you want to be there doing it, good luck, man.
Yeah. So Leif just opened a new gym, Leif Babin.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So we went down for the opening, flew a bunch of beef down, and then went down and just cooked out.
And he's what, purple belt now? I
don't know.
Okay.
I brought my gi and I never even got it out. There was like 1,000 people there for a meet and greet with Jocko. It was wall to wall people.
Okay.
And what was interesting is Jocko kind of gave a speech to everybody, and the mat was probably about the same size as your mat. It was wall to wall people. I mean, that whole building was just crammed full. And somebody asked Jocko, like, what do you do if you don't want to work out? And his answer I thought was awesome. He goes, on the first day I don't want to go work out, I make myself do it.
Yeah.
And he goes, and I go home and I eat a steak. And if on the second day I don't want to go, I will give myself a day off. But on the initial, like, I'm going to punk out and not go, he goes, I force myself to do it. And on the second day, if I'm still wrecked, I will skip the second day. I thought that was a really cool, like, internal timer or internal setting that it's like, oh, if I'm going to punk out, I don't get to punk out the first day.
Yeah.
We're going to check it and make sure we're actually tired. We're not just being a pansy.
Well, and obviously that's the battle that you have to fight your whole life is you have that weak voice in your head, but then you also have ailments and sickness and fatigue and like real things that we have to consider. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And what is that weak voice versus what is, hey, dummy, you're fucking burning the candle at both ends and your body's giving out on you.
Yeah.
And the truth somewhere in the middle, right? And you have to be aware of that. I feel like I'm to a point now, and it probably took me 25 years of working out and being consistent to where I can, I have a pretty good understanding if I'm being a bitch or if my body legitimately has some type of ailment going on.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah, but how often do you train? I mean, you have a much tighter connection to that loop in your brain than most people, right?
For sure. Yeah.
I think that's the hard part is when you're that, like me, training once a week. I'm just like, no, I have to go.
Yeah.
And I just go, but I don't have enough connection to that loop to know if I'm being a punk or if I'm actually tired.
Yeah.
Like that's the hard part is you're just so disconnected.
Isn't that funny though? It's like you would think between your own brain and your own body.
Yeah.
That you should have an understanding of what's going on. It's like, no, not necessarily.
If we figure it out, we'll be billionaires. Maybe that's what Neuralink is for.
Yeah, seriously, man. Did you roll with Andy at all? Andy Stumpf?
I didn't. He showed up like a day late. We got there. So camp runs Sunday to Saturday. And we got there.
That's a long time.
Yeah. We got there Sunday. We rolled Monday, Tuesday. We did the barbecue Tuesday night and then we bailed out. But Andy took his youngest to college. So Andy didn't show up till like Monday afternoon.
Okay.
And then, I saw him in passing, said, hey, saw Leah once. I mean, it was super in and out. And
is there like an understanding that if you go to Origin Camp, you're there for Origin Camp, or do people just bounce in for a day or two in the front or a day or two at the back? Because it seems like not a lot of people could dedicate a week to something.
No, most everybody's there all week.
Really?
Yeah, because they stay on site. Like it's a massive summer camp.
Okay.
So they bus people up from the airport and you're there all week. But I think somebody like Echo that does the podcast with Jocko or Andy, or Tim, Tim was in for a day.
Yeah.
Tim came in on Monday, taught on Monday, bailed out Monday night.
Yeah.
So I think there's some flexibility, but I think the majority of the campers that are, paying members to come, they're there all week.
And it's training every fucking day, huh?
Yeah. I mean, there's a schedule, and top and bottom of the schedule says mats are always open. But
the thought of training hard 7 days in a row,
yeah,
I don't think you could pay me enough money to do that anymore.
Yeah. So at
blue belt and purple belt, I fucking lived for that,
Well, Andy's made the comment on his podcast a couple of times. He goes, you watch the guys that come in and go full ham like Sunday, Monday, and by Wednesday, they're just a sack of shit. And I'm like, that would check out. I mean, you do 4 hours on the mat that you never usually do anyway, right? Now you're going to add.
Yeah, 4 hours on the mats.
Well, there's 3 hours of instruction a day. And then open mat kind of whenever, and you just walk around and there's just people rolling all the time, but it's pretty incredible. And
I would say an event like that would be half learning and half networking.
Yeah.
Or maybe even 25% learning and 75% networking. That's what I would want to go for. It's just to meet all of the different, fuck, dude. I saw pictures and I don't know, you'd have a better guess than I, but 100 black belts on the mat at one time or something crazy, dude.
I want to say the black belt mat was 40 or 50.
40, okay.
But it was a lot.
But bro, from all over the country.
Yeah.
But then the other side of it is most jiu-jitsu people are cut from a similar cloth. Mm-hmm. But if you're at Jocko's event, you're probably even more cut from a similar cloth. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I feel like it would be a really good opportunity to just network and meet people and because that's what we do. That's what makes everything happen,
Yeah, there was a bunch of podcast guys there, and there's business people there. We had people like, hey, we want to talk to you about this. Hey, take this sample. So there was a fair amount of networking. Probably back to your conversation about some of the really respectful black belts. I don't know the guy's name. Brazilian cat with like 6 stripes on a black belt. And he comes up like I'm cutting picanha, like we're getting ready for the barbecue dinner we did. My friend, can I have some picanha? And I'm like, I'm holding a Montana Knife Company chef's knife, and I still don't think that's enough. If you really want some, yeah. Like, what am I gonna say?
Hey, take what you want.
Yeah, you could take it if you want it anyway. Yeah, but just such a cool group.
Yeah, I did see a bunch of Brazilians there this time.
Yeah, Buchecha was there.
Buchecha, yeah.
I'd have to look. I know Zonde was there last year. I don't know if he was there this year. But there's just so many people moving around, and you're just like, you can't keep track of everybody that's there. And there's 450 campers aside from camp staff, aside from the Origin team that's there, who are mostly all black belts, right? Like John and Pete, and it's just stacked.
Pete's like your size, right?
Pete's taller than I am. Pete's got me by like an inch or two, and he's like 275.
Yeah, dude. I don't know how I feel about guys that size becoming black belts. Did you see that picture I posted last week? Or no, it's been probably 2 weeks ago now with Eben Britton. Are you familiar with him at all?
I'm not.
So he's this dude that did 6 seasons in the NFL.
Okay.
And now he teaches breath work and yoga and meditation. Because he's like, dude, I got out of the NFL and was just fucking beaten and broken and all of these physical ailments. And he's like, dude, and then also the psychological side of being one of the greatest athletes in the world to, hey, you're just a guy now.
Right.
And so he's like, I needed this to heal both my spirit and my physical body. So he went from like, he was an offensive tackle, so just fucking taking just men's souls, to doing breath work and meditation. And he did breath work meditation workshop here in Lake Stevens. So I went and I attended. And I said, hey, bro, you should come and train jiu-jitsu with me tonight. And he did. And then he ended up staying for a full week, and he did our Guns and Geese curriculum. He did, and like fully fell in love with jiu-jitsu.
That's awesome.
And he told me, he's like, bro, I've been searching for something for 10 years that could reignite the warrior inside of me. And he goes, I have no doubts. I just fucking found it. But dude, look at this dude.
I did see that picture. I didn't know the background behind it, but it almost looks like you're sitting on your knees.
Yeah, dude, I know. And it's like, because like I posted that, and there's some people commenting. They're like, dude, I thought you were like a decent sized dude. How big are you? I'm like, dude, I'm 6 foot, 200 pounds. So I'm not big, but I'm not small either.
Yeah.
I look like a child. And so for everybody,
you look like he could put you in his pocket.
For everybody that experiences jiu-jitsu with Eben, I apologize in advance.
Yeah, that's
I apologize for bringing him into jiu-jitsu. But here's the funny thing is he actually lives pretty close to Austin.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, do you know of any good academies down there? I was like, I got to connect you with Tim.
Yeah.
Let Tim turn you into a fucking monster, dude.
Dude, so when Jocko came down to that deal at Leif's gym, just right outside of Austin also, I go to walk up to say hey to Jocko because the Echelon front office is right next to the gym.
Okay.
They come walking over. I go up to walk up and say, hey. No, and I'm not really thinking anything of it. I was like, hey, man, good to see you. And this monster of a human steps in front of me. And I'm like, and I stop, and I'm like 6'3".
Is it Jiu-Jitsu Giant?
I don't know.
Okay.
He's a brown belt under Tim Kennedy.
Okay.
And he's an APD SWAT guy.
Got it. That's not who I'm thinking of.
He stepped in front of me, and I'm like staring at the middle of his chest, and I was like, what's up? And he goes, what do you need? I was like, well, I was coming to say hey to Jocko. He's like, nah. He's like, we're busy. I was like, check.
Was he being a dick?
No.
Okay.
Leif brought him in as kind of extra security because it was a big meet and greet, and he didn't know me.
Got it.
And I had on a CCB shirt, but he's like, oh, the state guy wants to just walk up to Jocko. Like,
well, he doesn't know you guys have a partnership.
100%. And I wasn't worried about it.
Of course. Yeah.
And they were running late. So I was just like, cool, I'm going to go back to cooking because you're a huge human. I go back to making steak. And then later on, we like go inside and he like calls me over. He's like, hey, man, I'm real sorry. I didn't know. I was like, it's totally fine, man. Yeah. And this is before I knew he was a brown belt under Tim Kennedy.
Yeah.
And I was like, so you're a monster. You're jacked out of your mind.
A skilled
and you
monster.
just happen to be a brown belt under Tim. Like full pass all the way.
Yeah.
How'd you like to be the dummy on a SWAT bust that, you know, runs around the corner straight into that guy?
We had this guy on my team that was this big jack dude, and he was always the breacher because he could just go through the door like a fucking scene out of a superhero movie, you know?
Right. He didn't even use the hammer.
Yeah, I have no doubt that that's the same. That's that guy's position.
Yeah.
He's
and
a fucking breacher.
And just a super good guy. Like after he realized, I was like, and he goes, well, you're not a small guy. And I look at him, I'm like, thanks.
Hey, small is relative, right?
Yeah.
So fuck, man. I mean, we can go back to jiu-jitsu here shortly because I can talk about jiu-jitsu for the next 6 hours.
Sure.
And we joke that the SD card has 16 hours left on it. So
right.
We can talk about jiu-jitsu as long as we want. But for people that didn't catch the first episode, and I will link that one in the show notes below if people want to go back and get like a real comprehensive background of Colorado craft beef and where you came from and how you started the company, because we talked about all that stuff.
Sure.
But let's just revisit that again and let people know who you are and the company you've built and kind of the mission that you have. And because it's a fucking powerful one. Jocko didn't partner with you by accident. You know what I mean? You have a really powerful vision of direct to consumer beef, high quality beef. And we are in a war right now with society that's trying to demonize healthy foods.
Yeah.
Like there's articles coming out. I'm sure you've seen them. That's like ultra processed foods may not be as unhealthy as previously believed. And it's like, man, what the fuck? 70% of Americans are obese right now.
Yeah.
What do we have to do to convince people that you can be a high functioning human being eating meat and vegetables and fruit and like whole real ingredients are the key. They are the answer and we know it. And your beef company, which is direct to consumer, is something that, in my opinion, is allowing people to have more options.
Yeah. So the super high level is my wife is a 5th generation rancher. And in 2017, we started a direct to consumer beef company with the intention of finding a way to make the ranch viable for future generations. We've got 2 little girls. At the time, they weren't born yet. They're 3 and almost 5 right now. And
they're just becoming fun little humans, dude.
They're awesome.
I love that stage.
Dude, they're having so much fun. Other than the fact that they're so loud, it's kind of off-putting, but you got to love it.
Not to go off on a tangent, but as a parent, you know, if I'm being completely honest, dude, the baby phase, like it's cool. You have a new baby and you love this little thing, but there's not a lot of bonding. It's more just like work.
Keep them alive.
Keep them alive.
Yeah.
Like, but once they become like 3, 4, 5, man, their personalities really start to sprout. And then you realize it's like, oh, they're their own little human.
Mm-hmm.
And they start to have their own opinions and their own thoughts. And it becomes fascinating.
Yeah. So our mission with the company, Kira's dad still runs the commercial ranch. And when we tipped up the beef company, we did it totally independent. So no family money, no handed down anything. We just put it together. And luckily we were both in corporate America doing pretty well, double income, no kids at the time. So we were able to make the right investments at the right time. But our mission at that time, we knew we were going to have kids. My wife really wanted to make sure that if our girls wanted to be Generation 6 on the ranch, that they had a viable way to do that.
I love that, bro.
And it wasn't like, oh, we want you to. It's we want them to have the opportunity.
Well, and I'm here to tell you, and I'm sure that you probably have a better understanding of this than I do. It's becoming tougher and tougher and tougher to get started as a young person.
Mm-hmm.
With the economy, the housing prices, everything. Like, Zach and Levi, who are 20 and 21 now, are just now venturing out into the world on their own. And it's a lot tougher than it was when we were 20, 21.
Yeah. The interesting dynamic I've seen, so a little bit on me, I'm a recovering private equity guy. Like I've just been a business dork since I was a kid. What's interesting to watch is this shift. Because if you look back to the 50s, what was the American dream? The American dream was owning your own company. Mm-hmm. Well, by the 70s or 80s or 90s, it was you needed a good, steady corporate job, right? We're in the backyard of Boeing and Microsoft right now.
Yep.
You needed one of those good corporate jobs. They'll never get rid of you. Corporations are awesome.
And Amazon.
Well, yeah, that too. But now it has almost even shifted past the corporate side to the only way to have a truly steady, comfortable employment is for the government.
I know.
That's the weird shift for me. Because I'm like, so it went from entrepreneurship to working for big companies. And now the safest place to work in the country is working for the government. I'm like, but the government's not adding a lot of value.
The government's adding zero value.
Yeah, we're not adding any economic benefit by working for the government. And I don't mean any disrespect to people that work for the government. That's just the way the system is developing. And you got to feed your family.
Taxpayers' dollars.
Yeah.
Pay their salary.
Yeah. But it's also damn near impossible to get fired.
Yep.
You don't have to perform. But, I've seen sales teams, to kind of tie up the bow on corporate America. 40 years ago, corporate America is the jam. I've seen sales teams in the last 5 or 10 years that are hitting all their sales targets, growing the business like the company asked them to, and they cut the sales team by half because the corporation has to do something for shareholders or whatever. It's not near as safe as it used to be.
Yeah.
And so those people are moving to government where you don't make a lot of money. I mean, you were a cop, right? You probably didn't make a lot of money. The benefits are great. Your retirement's probably going to be okay. They're selling you on that golden handcuff for later.
100%, bro.
And if you take that and put it in the food system, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to put you in golden handcuffs on the type of food you're eating. So you're less healthy, you're less mobile, you're less clear of mind, so that you will do what they need you to do and be a good little minion.
100%, bro.
And every system right now is driving to that. It's shocking to me, but it's awesome because with what we're doing with the beef company, the amount of people that we're seeing push back against that narrative and want to intentionally buck the system is growing incredibly. Like somebody like Dr. Baker, the carnivore diet, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, was considered taboo. And now you've got doctors that are fed up with the medical system being a assembly line of keeping people sick, saying, hey, how do we make it better? So I think we're starting to see a groundswell of people.
The shift is happening for sure.
I freaking hope so.
Well, bro, one of two things happens. We either shift and change the trajectory of this country, or we just continue to fucking nosedive in like a dirt dart and everything's going to fall apart. And I don't know what falling apart looks like, but you can't have an entire nation of people that are fat, sick, weak, and compliant. And here's the irony is that the government wants us to be that, but that's going to be the downfall of this government too.
Yeah.
Literally 20 minutes before you walk through that door, a girl stopped by who's one of my blue belts, and she just left for Navy OCS, and she's an officer now.
Right.
And she just graduated and has like a little bit of leave, and she came home and stopped by the gym and talked to me about it. And she's like, Greg, I was the fittest person in my entire class.
Mm.
And she's a fit woman, but it was shocking to her because she's like, she didn't feel like she's anything special, you know? And she goes, they literally told us in OCS that the Navy is so down on numbers and officers that everybody will pass and that we will work with you until you do pass. And it's like,
there's no,
she said,
there's
like,
no consequence.
she said a third of the people failed their initial PT test.
Hmm.
And bro, passing a military, like excelling at a military test can be difficult, but passing it, you should be able to get up tomorrow morning hungover as fuck and pass it.
Hmm.
And Tim Kennedy's talked about it. I think it's 70-something% of America's youth doesn't meet the initial standards for even military enlistment.
Just basic fit standards.
Yeah. And the thing is like, I'm not saying that everybody needs to be a war fighter, but I do think we should have a nation that is comprised of fit, capable people, regardless of what you want to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone's seen those videos of high school gym class. What was it, in the 50s?
Yeah, everybody's shredded.
Shredded. And it's like, oh, that's what young men look like.
Well, they also weren't eating bullshit.
Exactly right, man.
Like, don't eat the cellophane, right?
And they made them actually go out and do pull-ups and sprints and do real activities that challenge their body. And now we have somehow attached like these negative connotations to hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Like gym class should be fucking hard.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, my gym class was called body conditioning.
Mm.
And it was weight training one day and cardiovascular endurance the next day, every other day for the week. And at the end of that hour, you're fucking wrecked and you're drenched in sweat. And God, I was talking to one of my kids is like, no, nobody showers anymore in high school gym class. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, nah, nobody showers after. What you used to shower at school? I said, how could you not shower at school?
You smell like 8 cans of shark shit.
And it's like,
around.
But here's the thing. It's like, we all showered together. There was nothing weird about it.
Right.
It's like, we go work out for 50 minutes. And then the last 10 minutes, you have to hustle back to the locker room and you shower and you change. And then you make it to your next class.
Right.
And it's like every little aspect of what was normal for us when we were kids is changing dramatically. And bro, we're not that old, you know, I turned 44 this year. It's like, it's not, it shouldn't be that massive of a shift. But if we were to shift another, like say 20 more years, and if we continue this downward trajectory on the same path that we've been on, America is over.
Yeah.
And it's, and again, that's not like fucking doomsday or me like spreading fear or any of that shit. It's just fucking open your eyes and look at what we're becoming.
Yeah.
And like, dude, we should have a moral obligation to ensure that the next generation of human beings are fit and capable. And if they're not, there is a nation that is building fit and capable people right now.
Mm-hmm.
And fucking
There's
A, man.
a couple of them.
There's a couple of them.
Yeah.
And if we don't prioritize that, we're going to find ourselves in a fucking tough place.
Well, little sidebar. So our oldest, Emma, she'll be 5 in November. And you know what mutton busting is, right? Ride the sheep.
Riding the sheep. Yeah. You know what's so funny is we have a friend who's his name's actually Chris Malloy. Have you ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
He was a big wave surfer like 15 years ago. The Malloy brothers. They were like legends in the surfing community.
Hmm.
He's as old as me. He got away from surfing and he went and bought a ranch. And we went out there and his little boy Cooper is fucking riding these sheep.
Right.
And I was telling that story to a friend yesterday. And Jenny says, yeah, it's called mutton busting.
Mm-hmm. So where we live, you know, it's kind of rodeo tradition, right? That's the little kid event. Well, Emma is a little softer. Our youngest is an absolute monster, and she will be in jiu-jitsu just so we can try to contain the energy.
Yeah.
And the older one, my wife and I talked, and it's like, we're not going to bring up mutton busting. We'll do it next year. And somehow she came around. I think the nanny might have mentioned it. And I get bombarded one night. I get home from jiu-jitsu and I walk in and Kara's like, hey, come here. Emma wants to ask you something. I was like, that sounds ominous, but sure. And I walk over and Emma goes, Daddy, I want to do mutton busting. And I look at Kara and she goes, I didn't bring it up to her. She wants to do it. She goes, what do you want to do? And I looked at her. I said, well, Emma, here's the deal. If you want to do it, I'll get you signed up. No factor. You have to wear a helmet and a safety vest. That's required. She said, okay. And I said, if you sign up, you're doing it.
Yes.
You don't get to back out. You don't get to be scared. You are doing it. And I don't care if you are screaming, I will put you on that sheep and we will open the gate. She rocked out, man. She surprised the ever living crap out of me, my wife, my in-laws. She just crushed it. Totally surprised us out of nowhere. Never cried, never got nervous. But I look back and I had somebody tell me, like, man, you know, what if she just started crying? I said, no, I was sticking to my guns. Like, you don't get to do that. And people looked at me like I was evil. And I'm like, no, you don't sign up for something and get to quit. Like, you don't sign up for the baseball team and quit after the third game because you had a bad day.
Yeah, you're going to see it through.
Yeah, you committed to this.
Bro, seeing things through is one of the fucking like foundational elements of finding success.
But it's funny to me because so many people are like, well, if they don't feel like it, I'm like, nobody cares. Work harder.
Yeah.
Figure it out. If you want to do it, that's fine, but you're going to do it.
Bro, you might see it tonight because at 5:00 I have kids class, which you're going to stick around for.
Sure.
And every once in a while, like, you know, a kid will have a bad round or something and run over to mommy. And it's like, hey, no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
All right. Mommy is not your savior.
Yeah. Did you forget the building you're in?
Yeah.
Get over here.
Dude, when you're on the mats, you have to figure out how to be your own savior.
Yeah.
And that's where the power comes from. That's where the beauty and the magic happens. And I'll have to pull them away from mom sometimes and be like, I mean, obviously.
How's that education curve with the parents? I mean,
parents, I honestly think this gym has attracted people that are on our vibe.
I mean, you would hope so.
Yeah.
Right? Pay attention a little bit.
Yep. I had one run in with a mom not too long. Well, it's been 6 months now, probably. And I threw her out of the gym over it. Because she's like, you talk to the kids like you're a drill sergeant. I said, no, I don't talk to the kids like I'm a drill sergeant. I talk to the kids in a manner where they have to understand, like, hey, we're here to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you go to our website, it literally says, like, train hard, train often. We're here to fucking build discipline, capability, and success. And, like, to build your child into that person, it's not going to be an easy path. It's not going to be an easy path for anyone that jumps into that journey. But sometimes you get these parents that want to protect their children from hard work. And it's like, maybe in your heart, you're thinking that you're coming from a place of like love and kindness. But what you're actually doing is the opposite of that, because teaching your kids how to endure and see things through, like you said, those are going to be the lessons that they carry on that make them into stronger, capable human beings. And I tell my kids too, like, I know jiu-jitsu is not for everyone, but you have to be doing something. Mm-hmm. And whatever you choose to do, you have to see it through.
Yep.
And like, it's strange to me that there's like you just said, you had people looking at you like you're crazy. Well, she's going to do it whether she wants to or not. And it's like, yeah, but in the foundation of that, it was her choice. Mm-hmm. And now I'm teaching her how to make a decision and then see it through.
Well, and I set expectations, right?
Of course.
That's usually the mother of all screw ups is unmet expectations, which are typically not communicated.
Yeah.
Whether it's business or relationships or with your kids or whatever. And that's really, you know, as sterile as that may sound with my girls, 3 or 4 or 20.
Yep.
It's going to be the same model. This is the expectation. You ask for this, that's fine. Maybe we can do it. Maybe we can't. That's just life. But there will be a set of expectations that are drawn in stone and you will execute, or the expectations don't change to how you're feeling that day. It doesn't matter. I mean, do you think I can go to our business partners in the beef company? I was having a bad day. No one cares.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't ship out all the product that was supposed to go out today because I was just feeling tired.
Yeah. Oh, dude, yeah. We sent out, we're live on Amazon now with the beef sticks that launched in February and the beef tallow that I brought some for you today.
Yeah.
And we launched on Amazon and we had a ton of orders. So we didn't get restocked till Friday from the harvest facility. The labels didn't show up till Saturday. So guess what my wife and I were doing on Saturday night at 9 o'clock?
That's right. Yeah.
And my wife looked at me because it's like 6 o'clock. I said, hey, can you get the girls to bed? I'm going to go over to the building. I'm going to get everything packed. I'm going to start working. And she asked me, which is a reasonable question. She said, do we have to do it tonight? I said, yes. We have an event tomorrow with a UFC champ that's going to be at the ranch. Monday, we're getting a truckload of insulators. We're going to be totally wall to wall and they have to ship by Tuesday. I'm not waiting till Tuesday morning because that's asking for failure. And I told her, I said, if you don't want to come out, that's totally fine. We've had a crazy day. I'll just go out, put on some angry music and do what I got to do. She goes, no, I'm not going to leave you hanging. And she came out, and in 3 hours we did it. And I don't say that from like, oh, look what we did, but
it's just you're doing what you have to do.
I have an obligation.
Yeah.
I have an obligation to our investors, but more importantly, and this is something that's really popped up with the company. At some point, the company became big enough that it's no longer about me and Kara.
Yeah.
We have 25 employees. They all have families. There's 100 people that eat 3 times a day because our company is doing what it needs to do.
Yeah. So if you drop the ball, that's 25 families.
Yeah.
And that's on one hand, that's really cool.
It is.
You've built something that is helping out all these people. But on the other hand, it's a burden too.
It is. Because, I mean, let's be fair. If everything detonates tomorrow, I'll probably be fine. No big deal.
Yeah.
Our partners, they don't have their entire nest egg tied up in the company. Everybody will be okay. The people that be hurt the most are the employees.
Yeah.
And I will not stand for that. And will do everything in my power to not let that happen, because we have a social contract. They came to work. They're selling me their time to help build a company. And it is absolutely unacceptable in my mind to not execute at the very best of my ability to give the company the best success chance that it could have, not for returns, but for those humans.
Yeah.
And that was interesting to me because, you have that feeling when your kids are born, you're like, holy shit, it's not just about me anymore.
Yeah.
And at some point the business morphed into that too.
Wow.
And I was like, that was like an aha moment about Christmas last year. I was like, man, where the hell did this come from? Because it just took on this whole life of its own. And, we're exceptionally fortunate. I don't mean to say like, oh, we're trying so hard, but at some point it's like, I have 100 people every day that depend on our company doing what it needs to do for posterity's sake, for income, for them to feed their family. We're feeding people every day. We sell beef nationwide. We sell beef into big hotels now. We're doing a lot of crazy business stuff. But at the end of the day, we can't do it without them.
Yeah.
And we owe it to them to give our best effort to their success too.
See, what a powerful perspective to hold as an employer, right? And I'm not an employer. I don't have, I have people that help me out of the gym, but nobody's families are reliant on electric jiu-jitsu but mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't fully conceptualize what that feels like, but it adds pressure to you to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing.
It's also incredibly empowering. Incredibly empowering because they believe in the mission too.
Yeah.
So, as a leader of the company, right, that's my job. But I am buoyed by great people doing great things every day. And to not reciprocate that level of effort, I think would be tragic.
Well, bro, and the thing is, like, it's leadership 101. Your people see you leading from the front, prioritizing them, making sure that you do all the right things to make sure that they're successful. And that's going to make it go full circle, because then that's going to motivate them on the other side to make sure that they're doing all the right things and that they're pulling their weight. And it's strange to me that a lot of, fuck, dude, you've heard the story a million times. Like, my boss is a prick and he barks at everybody. And it's like, dude, where did people get this misconception that leadership should happen in a form of aggression?
Right.
Like, dude, the people that fucking are underneath you should look up to you as a mentor.
Yeah.
They should be like, I remember the best leaders that I ever had are guys that to this day, if they called me and say, hey, Greg, I'm going to need you to do this for me. Can you make that happen? Like my team leader from Ramadi from 20 years ago, I had such respect for that guy that to this day, I will fucking move heaven and earth to help him out if he needed something from me. That's the relationship you should have with your subordinates.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's a team effort, right? Like, I had a guy right after I got out of college. I was 90 days into my first corporate job. And this was the single biggest gut check moment I had in my whole career. And this manager, his name's Matt, solid guy. I have a ton of respect for him as well. He was like 29 at the time. I was 22. And he took me golfing on a Friday, had a couple of beers, and we get back to the parking lot. Well, hey man, how do you think it's going? We're like 90 days in. And all I did is talk about myself. I said, man, I'm doing good. I'm getting the respect of the team. I'm learning this. I'm this. I didn't know. And he looks at me and he goes, all right, man, gut check time. And I was like, I didn't even know that was coming. I mean, he could have hit me with a freaking left hook and it would have surprised me less.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, what's up? And he goes, if you don't show up on Monday, what's going to happen? I said, nothing, man. The team's awesome. The plan will run. Everything will be great. He goes, uh-huh. What if they don't show up on Monday?
Yeah, you're fucked.
100%. And I only had a team of like 7 dudes.
Uh-huh.
But we were running a massive grain elevator in Nebraska. And he's like, never forget that. Because you just told me why you're doing well. But we just recounted that I don't need you as much as I need your team. And he was the regional manager. And I was like, and I'm just staring at him. He goes, have a great weekend, man. I'll see you Monday. And he gets in his pickup and he leaves. And I just sat there for probably 20 minutes. Like, man, I am not catching this at all.
Don't you love those little leadership aha moments though?
I do now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like in the moment, you're like, what the fuck?
Oh, I was certain I was going to go in on Monday and get fired.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I am missing the boat altogether. And I went in on Monday and all I did that whole week, outside of the very basic administrative stuff I had to do as a manager, I was sweeping the floor of the elevator. I was helping the guys. I was greasing bearings. I was just like, I went out and made myself part of the team.
Yeah.
And he didn't tell me to do that. He just kicked me in the face and showed me like, you aren't doing it right. Go figure it out. And I was like, okay. And I love him for doing that. I don't think you'd get away with that today. I was talking to a guy a week and a half ago. He was out at the ranch. We had him and his wife and a couple other people out. And he owns a big HVAC company. And we were swapping construction stories from back when I was in the construction trade. And I was like, he goes, man, you couldn't get away with a third of the stuff we used to do 10 years ago. He goes, the general contractors, like, he goes, I had a foreman get removed off of a big government job because he walked up to one of my guys and was like, hey man, I need you to pick it up. Just like that. Not swearing, not throwing stuff, which was commonplace 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's like, I need you to pick it up. And the general contractor removed the foreman for creating a hostile work environment.
Bro, yeah, dude.
And I was like, you're an HVAC company. Like, you're tradesmen.
Tradesmen have always had a reputation for being tough.
Yeah. Well, dude, I remember when I was in construction, we had a lot of stuff going on with the crew I was running. We had like 40 employees. And I was the GM of the company. And I got all the guys together. We were having some big issues. And I started the conversation with, you guys are fucking up my universe. And I went from there. And it was not a nice conversation. Everybody got in line. We were cool the next day.
Yeah.
But we were earthwork guys. We ran dozers. We ran excavators. We laid pipe, like man work.
Yep.
And apparently that doesn't fly anymore. And
well,
I'm like, man, it's wild.
So here's the thing. Like, I just referenced, like, oh, bosses back in the day used to just bark at people and be dicks. And like, that doesn't work either if it's all the time. Sure. Right. But if you have a lot of leadership capital because your people underneath you know that, just like the things that you said, I care about you, I care about your family. Our success happens as a team, not as individuals. Like, all those things, if you build that environment and then you do have to come down on them for some shit, it's like, hey guys, you fucked this up yesterday and we can't have this. It should sting.
Mm-hmm.
They should feel that. It should bother them. And that's where the correction happens. It's not because you're fucking standing up on your fucking pedestal being a dick. It's because you're showing these people that the team is taking a hit because of their shortcomings or their failures. And I think if you've harbored the right team environment, that those lessons are received, because failing the team should sting.
Yeah.
Doing the wrong thing should sting.
Well, have you read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck?
Yes.
Great book.
Uh-huh.
And my central tenet from that book that I love everybody to know is, the guy basically said, if you give a fuck about everything, then you give a fuck about nothing.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't carry any weight.
Yep.
Like, so your comment, you yell and scream every day and that's your style. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
After like day 10, it's just monotone. It's Charlie Brown's mom in the background. Wah, wah, wah.
Yep.
Nobody cares. But if you're an empathetic dude, guy needs vacation, kids are sick, and you take care of them, and then you drop the hammer one day,
that means something.
they go,
that's right.
People look around. And if that's your typical style, I mean, you might get punched in the mouth, but at the same time, like you have to, I love the term leadership capital. That's a continual accounting practice within good leaders is I'm not going to ask for X because I asked for Y last week. I'm going to let that one roll. I'm going to let them play it out. Like you have to be cognizant of that. No different than right now. Like we sent all that product to Amazon. We're a little behind on beef stick orders. Our harvest facility that we control in-house is getting caught up, but he's crushed it for the last 4 months. I'm not going to ride him. He knows.
Yeah.
I don't need to say anything. He knows we're ramping up. We just ordered a bunch of new equipment to make that a little faster and a little more automated. It's coming. It's not going to do me any good to be like, dude, you got to hurry up. He knows.
Yeah.
And you could choose to be the big dog, but what's that going to do for you? You're not being an inclusive part of the team. You're being a dick.
Well, I've told this story on the podcast several times, so people are probably like, God, not this again. But in Ranger Regiment, a lot of team leaders are those guys that like bark and are fucking aggressive and yell at you. And I had a team leader that was like that. And don't get me wrong, he was a good Ranger. He was good at tactics. He was good at teaching. But he was just really rough around the edges, and when things weren't going good, he fucking smoked the shit out of you.
And what year was this?
99.
Okay.
So it was like going fucking hard in the paint. That was his style, right? But what you started to find was, hey, anytime we fuck something up, he comes in yelling and screaming and making us do push-ups. And before you know it, you don't really care anymore. Because it's like, I can do push-ups until close of business. Like, I'll be in the front leaning rest for an hour. I don't really care anymore. I'm just a young Ranger and this is my life.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting out or moving on. I forgot where he went. And we got a new team leader and we fucked something up. And I don't even remember what we fucked up. But we're like, Sergeant came in the room and we're like, just, hey, getting ready to just do push-ups for the next hour, whatever, He shuts the door behind him, which is a telltale sign that it's about to go down. And he goes, hey, everybody sit down and listen to me for a second. I don't know how it was with
and you guys were like, this is weird.
Yeah, what's going on now? He goes, I don't know how it was with your last team leader, but I'm your team leader now. Team leader, meaning we're all on the same team. And when you guys fuck something up, it's not just a reflection of you, it's a reflection of me and you, because we're on the same team. And I don't want to be part of a fucking low functioning team. I want to have the best team in the company. So whatever, I forgot what it was. The story would be so much better if I remember the details, but it's fucking 25 years ago now. He's like, so in the future, don't make bad decisions because it hurts everybody. It doesn't just hurt you guys. And I remember he fucking turned around and shut the door and we were all just looking at each other like, what the fuck just happened?
Do we still have to do push-ups?
Yeah. But the thing is, he came from a place of being part of what we are, being part of the team, being one of us, as opposed to just, what the fuck, privates, get down and beat your face.
Yeah.
And, bro, we became the best team in the company, just like he wanted, because his style of leadership made us want to have investment in the team. And it's like, it's strange that concept's lost on a lot of people. Make your subordinates feel like they're invested and it's important, and they'll fucking literally give their blood for you.
Yeah. And on top of that, try to encourage them to see the bigger mission.
Yeah.
Because if your job is to, at the harvest facility, I put steak in a bag. Okay, cool. That's admirable. But that's a part of a bigger thing. So I've spent a ton of time at the harvest facility just in the last year, walking our team leads on the kill floor. The processing floor. Well, there is a kill floor, but this is a different side of the, it. So processing is where you take the animal and breaking them into pieces. Kill floor is where we are harvesting. But I've walked through with them and I've shown them the math. Hey guys, if these steaks are cut incorrectly, here's the impact on the beef company. This is why it matters. What can we do to make it easier for you? It's not about hey, you got to make this better. It's, hey guys, here's the why. Here's why it matters. Tell me if this is unachievable, because I don't know your job, and let's find a solution. Notice I said, let us find a solution.
Yeah.
I'm not just there, you're fucking up. Do it better. No, that doesn't work. I mean, especially when you're standing in front of 9 dudes holding knives, you probably need to come from a different place.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than just, what's my job today? It's no, like, what's the mission? What are we all trying to work toward, and making it matter? Because if you just tell them you did it wrong, you didn't meet standard, and you don't help them, and maybe you give them the standard. This is the standard, and they don't know why, and they don't understand the methodology behind it. What are you doing?
Well, dude, imagine if that employee went home and crawled in bed with his wife and was like, man, Jeff's such a fucking dick, dude.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Well, the cancer is going to spread.
That's what I'm saying, dude, because we've all been part of organizations where you hate your leadership at the top. And you can't spend 5 minutes in the lunchroom without somebody bitching or complaining. And you're exactly right. That's exactly what I was going to say. It becomes cancerous because as soon as somebody is disgruntled for whatever reason it may be, that disgruntled energy gets put on other people, and they feel it, and the whole vibe of the operation takes a hit.
Yeah.
And it's all because of a failed leadership tactic.
Well, or, in your example, somebody goes home and tells their wife, well, that seed of doubt is now at their house.
Yes.
It isn't just at work anymore.
Yep.
And if he's having a bad day, I know where that's going to land. The wife is going to be upset with me.
100%, dude.
And it's just going to manifest. So and I talked to one of our board members, actually a private equity guy I used to work for. I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he goes, hey man, every problem in business, if it's not strictly money related, is a human problem. And I said, okay, define that. He goes, typically you have the wrong ass in the wrong seat. Somebody's in a spot they shouldn't be in, or they're incapable, or a role has evolved to a point that it outgrew the person there, or you just have a bad team member.
Yeah.
And he goes, that is 99% of all non-direct money issues in a company. I was like, so you're saying it's not going to get better? He starts laughing. He goes, if you figure that out, you'll be a billionaire.
Yeah.
Like, thanks, dude. But it's so wild, but it's cool because, you watch your employees' kids grow up. You watch your employees morph. You watch your employees ask for more to do. Or your employees are like, hey, I want to work towards XYZ goal. And you can encourage that. At that point, it's not about the business. It's about the community.
Yep.
And not the community of the business, but now you're giving back to a small community of 12,000 people.
Yeah.
And you're helping to encourage them.
Well, like Andy Frisella, when I was down at First Form, he told me, he's like, one of my favorite things that I get to do every single morning is when I drive to work, he goes, I'll take a circle around the parking lot, because he's a car guy, right?
Yeah.
He's always been into cars. He goes, I like to take a circle around the First Form parking lot and look at all the nice cars out there. And he goes, and then it reminds me, it's like, man, all of these people that are on the inside of the building are building this life and chasing the dreams that they're getting the house that they want. They're getting the car that they want. And he's like, because of First Form.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it really reiterates to me the importance of the team environment, is because like there are so many people that are starting to chase their dreams because of what we're building here. Because it's a lot more important than just how much money I'm making. It's about all of these people's lives that are being enriched because they've decided to dedicate their life to being part of the First Form team. He's like, that is never lost on me.
Right.
And that's fucking powerful, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a mindset change.
Yeah.
And then, probably the other weird thing with owning the harvest facility, we actually even harvest cattle for some of our biggest competitors in the region.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So some of our competitors are our business partners in some form or fashion, because our harvest facility is the best one in the region. We've got a heck of a team. It's one of the bigger ones in the region. And, right after we did the deal, we got on the phone with all of our main competitors that harvest there. and had to tell them, and this is kind of akin to what our company message is. I called our competitors and said, hey, you got to hear this from me. We bought the harvest facility. This is what we're going to do. Please understand, we aren't going to throw you out of there.
Yeah, you're not just trying to buy it to squeeze them out.
And I said,
wow,
what I would actually like to do is sit down with you guys and figure out how you're trying to grow your business to see how we can help you. Because as cattle producers, we all are on the same team.
Yeah.
So what can I do to help your business? Is there something we're not doing right? Is there something you'd like to add? Is there something that will make things simpler? And that, I mean, I got looked at like I had 3 eyeballs when we sat down in those meetings because they just didn't understand. They're like, why are you doing that? And I said, why not? I'm not going to take this economic engine for our small community and pull it offline and screw over a third of the county.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? And that's very much a Frizella Jocko type thought. Like, why would you do that? I mean, you could. It's probably not the best way to do it. Somebody might throw flaming dog shit on my step.
Well, bro, I mean, that's really living the mindset of abundance, you know? And instead of just, and it's funny because Andy says the same thing. He's like, dude, I have relationships with a lot of First Forms competitors. And he's like, they bounce ideas off me. They come to me and ask for advice on different aspects of like just all the different things that are entailed in being part of the supplement industry. And he's like, I want my competitors to do well because it makes me do better. You know, a perfect example of that is Vortex. Are you connected to Vortex at all? Are you familiar?
I've got a bunch of their gear.
So I'm part of the Vortex Pro team, which I don't even really know how that happened, but it's been fucking really great. And Seamus Terry, who is the president of Vortex, has become a personal friend. And he said to me one day, he goes, Greg, just because you're on Vortex Pro team, I want you to understand. He goes, I know that you were in special operations for a long time. You were a cop for a long time. He goes, I know if I open your safe, you got some stuff from Trigicon and some stuff from Leupold. And he goes, and if you're out on your range shooting one of your guns with a Leupold optic, good. He goes, it's not going to hurt my feelings. I would never ask you, like, throw that stuff away. Don't use that stuff anymore. And he goes, and here's why. He goes, Leupold and Trigicon, specifically, those are the 2 companies he mentioned by name. He goes, the better they do, he goes, they're going to come out with an optic this year that is better than what we have. And he goes, and then we're going to get our research and development team together and we're going to sit down and say, hey, how do we outdo them next year? What do we have to do? And we're going to come up with a plan and we're going to build a new product. And then next year we're going to be the fucking lead. And those companies are going to be chasing us. And he goes, and then it's going to flip flop next year. And he goes, having these strong competitors makes us all better. Yeah. He goes, because if we were just sitting at the top and no one was pushing the envelope, what would incentivize us to continue to want to be the best?
Well, it's healthy competition.
Healthy competition. He goes, and he's like, that is what makes all of our companies succeed. And it's like, boom.
Well, it's like,
that's why they're Vortex.
You have a wall of element behind you. You have First Form energy drinks in there. We're obviously working with Jocko and Jocko Fuel.
Yep.
And I know Andy and Pete are super tight.
Yep.
And if you look around, who are our First Form and Jocko Fuel competitors? I mean, on paper, sure.
Yeah, maybe technically, but yeah.
But who is their real competitor? It's a Monster.
Yes.
It's not each other.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is very much the cattle space. Like, hey, if you're White Oak Pastures, Will Harris, technically we're competitors. But our real competitors, the Big Four. The Big Four control 85% of the cattle market.
Who are the Big Four?
JBS, Tyson, Cargill, and National Beef.
Okay.
Oddly enough, National Beef is a Brazilian company, as is JBS. But those 4 companies control 85% of the beef supply chain across the country. So when somebody's like, oh, that's your competitor, like JP Donnell, I don't know if you know JP.
Yeah, I don't know him, but I know he's part of Jocko's team. I think we follow each other on Instagram.
Yeah, so like JP and one of his buddies, Steve Little, they started a cattle company. They're selling steaks direct to consumer. I was with JP at Origin Camp. He gave me one of his rash guards. I'm going to be rocking that tonight. But I was like, hey, man, how are things? How's shipping? How are things going? What can you do? And we just rapped about business. And he's like, dude, come on the podcast. I want to talk to people about what you guys are doing. We are technically competitors. but I'm no more a competitor of JP than JP is a competitor of Jocko.
Yeah.
Like I want JP and Steve to do well, or Putnam up at Little Belt. I want him to do well. And there's so many people that, I want them to get creative, and same deal. What am I going to learn from? How are we going to move this needle? Or like KC Cattle Company. That's another one. That's a Green Beret. He's out of Kansas City and he's buds with Putnam.
Okay.
But it's such a scarcity mindset when you, like, for instance, I'm on this podcast talking about my competitors, giving you their company names. Buy from them too.
Yeah.
Like, make an informed decision. Maybe you like it. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But there is so much business out there. You don't have to be worried about this. Oh my goodness, if I don't sell that steak, somebody else will buy it. It's like, man, there's so many customers out there. Like, let's just go do good business. Let's help each other.
And bro, what's one of the most important aspects of any business? Like for me, it's jiu-jitsu, right? But it's not lost on me that in the jiu-jitsu world, your reputation is kind of everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Everything. It's in everything. Your reputation is everything.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, man, everybody's going to know. But instead of behind closed doors, like, oh, that fucking Jeff guy at Colorado Craft Beef, it's the opposite of that. They're like, man, that dude fucking helps us out whenever he can, however he can. And like, that's not going to be lost on people.
Yeah.
Something's kind of funny. Speaking of competitors, this podcast was sponsored by Paleo Valley grass-fed beef sticks for 4 years.
Yeah. Did I mess that up?
No. You didn't mess it. It's funny because like you came into the beef stick market at the same time. And it's no hard feelings. I love that company and I've always had a good relationship with them. But at the end of the day, a podcast sponsor is based on how many people are using your coupon code and how much you're producing as a partner with them. And after 4 years, that's why podcast sponsors kind of are ever changing. They just
matriculate a
because,
little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And so for the first time, they said, hey, your coupon code is no longer meeting our viable numbers. We have to come to a lower money agreement or a lower amount that didn't work for me. And so we went our separate ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we went our separate ways, you started producing beef sticks. And it's funny because one thing that I say about their company is like, read the back of the package and there's no bullshit in them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bunch of brown sugar and dyes. You go to the fucking grocery store and look at any beef stick or any beef jerky, and it's literally filled with bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you sent me a package of yours, and it's like, oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Another option that's literally just healthy ingredients.
Yeah.
And what's strange to me is it's like, and maybe you know the answer to this, why do companies insist on filling their foods with so much bullshit? Does it just make it cheaper to produce it?
Well, you can look at any number of the snack sticks, for instance, and just look at the ingredients. How many of them have pork? They have pork and chicken because it's less money.
Yeah.
It's very uncommon to see a 100% beef stick because it is expensive. And if you start looking at unitized prices and, cost per ounce and all those different things, that's what those guys are doing. But also, like you and I were talking before we started recording, there's one big company that makes a massive amount of the snack sticks made nationwide. And they make like 1.2 million sticks a week for every brand you've ever heard of. Well, at that scale, it's not about cleanliness. It's not about the right ingredients. It's around consistency to the very best level you can at huge scale. And you know as well as I do, over time, scale is going to diminish product quality.
Of course.
To some degree. But it's, there's fillers, there's binders, there's shelf stability. A lot of the grocery stores require you to be a 1-year shelf life to put anything non-perishable on the shelf.
Oh, okay.
Ours are only 6 months because we won't add that other stuff.
So does that preclude you guys from being part of a lot of like big chain stores throughout the country?
So far we haven't been able to really chase those because we don't have the scale and we're selling so many of them direct. But those conversations are coming. I'm curious to see how that goes. But at the same time, it's like, why would we have to change our strategy? Like, no, we're making clean product, like even so on the snack sticks, we have 3 flavors. We have an original, a pepper, which is my favorite, and a jalapeno.
Which is fucking legendary.
The original and the jalapeno both have liquid smoke in them. And when we ran those through the first time, we did like 8 renditions of different recipes, different cook times until we got what we wanted.
I don't even know what liquid smoke is.
Well, so typically it's something you use in barbecue or something else like in a binder so that it adds like a hickory flavor.
Okay.
But in this particular deal, we put liquid smoke in and then we sent everything off for nutritionals to go on the labels. And it came back with 1 gram of sugar because there was molasses in the liquid smoke.
Oh.
So we pulled that liquid smoke and we found another liquid smoke that is literally hickory flavor and water, no sugar, and reformulated based on that. But in a bigger production environment, what are you selling? How are you getting paid by your customers? Like a great example I heard from some of the guys at Origin. What do our customers pay us for? They pay us for made in the USA.
Yeah.
Do they pay us for, fill in the blank? And that's how you start making value decisions. How can we charge more? Because Origin jeans are friggin' solid. I love them.
I love their fucking jeans.
But they're expensive.
Yep.
So somewhere you have to have the value proposition match the price point at a customer level that they will purchase at. And that is a constant battle. But if you're in the snack stick space, what are you fighting? Especially if you're in heavy retail.
Yeah.
It's price fully.
Well, that makes sense, man, because like if you try and get your beef sticks into Walmart where you're competing against Slim Jims
and Jack Links and all
right?
the bullshit, yeah.
That are fucking 89 cents a piece or whatever. Unless people are very health conscious and are intentionally chasing something that is nutritionally dense and devoid of all the fillers and preservatives and bullshit, you're probably not going to see a lot of success in certain groups of people just because that's not their focus.
Well, and I would guess like somebody like yourself, if you're looking for that, you aren't going to Walmart either.
Yeah, for sure.
You are intentionally going to a website that somebody and
well, bro, maybe you're probably already doing this, but like we have now started carrying your beef sticks in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, they fucking sell like hotcakes because what do people want at the end of practice? A quick fucking hit of protein, right?
I don't know. Usually I want a beer, but
dude,
I'm not sure what that says about me.
You'll see, bro. Like people love a beef stick after practice. And then our partners next door, the CrossFit gym, they just got connected to you and are doing the same thing. And just maybe that's your guys' audience, like people that are health conscious, that are trying to be stronger and more capable and build their bodies. Because if I have to pay, I don't even know, what are your beef sticks? I don't even
$4.
$4.
Like retail is typically $4. On the website, you can buy a 9-pack for $30 and that's free shipping.
But and so people are like $4, what the fuck? Also, like it's fucking gigantic.
Yeah, it's a 1.7 ounce stick.
Yeah, it's a really big beef stick.
That's what I heard. But typically you're going to get a 1 ounce beef stick. That's kind of the market.
So it's double the size of what you typically see,
generally speaking. Yeah,
and so, bro, I guess you just have to fucking know your audience, and you should just start fucking promoting them in jiu-jitsu gyms across the fucking country, which you're already doing,
Yeah, we're in Dedeco's gym. We're in, obviously, your gym. We're in Leif's gym. I think we're going to be in Tim's gym soon. Same concept. We're just chasing that around. I just picked up another wholesale account yesterday. It's actually a gun store.
Okay.
But it's an outfitter type store where you're buying packs and rucks and, you're going to go get geared up for season. And they're like, we want the tallow, we want the snack sticks, and we want the summer sausage because it's travelable food that somebody can throw in a pack.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. That's an interesting new look.
I just hunted in Maui and my day pack had a couple energy bars and a bladder filled with fucking Element and a bunch of beef sticks.
There you go.
And that's what you need, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that's been really cool with the girls and, my health journey. We talked about that a little bit on the last podcast, but I'm actually up about 20 pounds from last year, but I've also started lifting.
You don't look up 20 pounds.
Yeah. I've been lifting.
Unless it's in your traps and your fucking shoulders.
Shoulders and back mainly.
Okay.
But for some reason I'm packing a little bit more of a gut. Like I'm repartitioning everything.
Yeah.
But it's cool watching our 3 and 4-year-old, like, dude, our 3-year-old, if she doesn't have protein, like she goes to preschool. Well, they're giving them goldfish and bullshit.
Dude.
And so they always have beef sticks in their bag. And she got in the pickup, I guess, the other day, and the nanny was like, Addie, our little one, was losing her mind. And she's like, our nanny is like, what is the problem? And Addie, I need protein. A 3-year-old, I need protein. So she gives her a meat stick because she's just happier than hell. But she got hangry because she'd just been eating garbage all day.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll send summer sausage and cheese on our snack days. I'm sure we're super popular for that. But then you'll watch the staff at the school get out other stuff because the kids won't eat it. I'm like, you guys are killing me. Like,
bro, that's something that is like, it's an ongoing, it puts me in fucking emotional turmoil because it's like every fucking birthday party, every Valentine's party, every Halloween, Christmas, like you have just these nonstop reasons to fill your body with bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, dude, I don't want to be the fucking dad that's like, you can't have a piece of birthday cake at your friend's party, right? Like, I don't want to be that person. But on the other side of it, it's like almost every single, like my girls are in volleyball, and it's like at the volleyball games, they bring out the snack shack, and like the snack shack is a bunch of fucking poison. But one of my daughters it plays, and then another one of my daughters actually runs the snack shack for the school. And you go and you look at it, it's like, why are we feeding our children any of this stuff? It's not even food.
Well, so one of our customers for the beef company is the strength and conditioning coach for the Denver Nuggets. And I've been in the facility a couple of times, and they now carry our beef sticks on their snack cart.
Nice.
And he's like, he sent me a picture of their snack cart, and I'm like, why are we not sharing that level of data with our schools?
Yes.
Because clearly you guys know you're measuring these athletes, these superhuman athletes that are playing in the NBA. And you guys have figured it out because there's a monetary reason for those guys to execute.
Exactly.
So you got to make sure they're healthy. I'm like, and you guys can figure this out and you guys can make it work. But in the school system, everybody thinks goldfish and fucking Captain Crunch is the answer. And let me be fair. Peanut butter Captain Crunch is amazing.
Dude, don't get me wrong. I tell people all the time, I am a secret fat kid at heart. Make no mistake. Like, I love eating all of this poisonous bullshit as much as the next guy. But that's because this food is designed to taste delicious and fucking addict you and poison you.
Dude, I got to send you, my wife sent this to me like 2 weeks ago. I'm going to have to find it and get it to you. There's a video out. Somebody was on Tucker Carlson's show, and they were talking about in the 80s when smoking started catching heat, they pulled a bunch of those chemists from Philip Morris and some of the other cigarette companies and moved them into food production.
Yes.
Strictly to make it addictive. And I'm like, Kara showed that to me, and I was like, I don't wear a tinfoil hat that much, but I had it on that day for sure.
Bro, the tinfoil hat is no longer something that's looked at as silly. It's looked at as people whose brains work and are willing to fucking question things and apply common sense to things,
Yeah. Well, thank you for the vote of confidence.
But here's the thing too. It's like, I just said on one hand, I like all that fucking sugary bullshit and it's yummy. And it's like, it gets the dopamine receptors just like it does in everybody else. But one thing that I've found, and I'm sure you've found this too, when you go through periods of time where you say, hey, you know what? I'm completely removing all of that shit from my life. And I'm only going to eat whole foods. You eat fucking steak and fruit for 3 months, you no longer want any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You wake up and you crave a ribeye.
Yeah.
And like,
dude, my Achilles heel is, especially with the beef company, because we're doing stuff with high-end hospitality. Hey, come to the property. We want to take you to the restaurant. We want to show you what we do. Oh, here's our cocktail list.
Oh, yeah.
And I love a good whiskey, but dude, I'm just like, damn it. Like, that derails me so badly.
Bro, it's, and you can open that fucking cabinet right there. That's our party cabinet. And when people are in town, we stock it with all kinds of liquor and there's joints in there. And it's like, I partake in that stuff, but I also do it with an understanding that fucking liquor is poison.
Yeah.
It is. There is no amount of whiskey that's good for you.
No.
And, I mean, that's one of the fucking dichotomies of life. It's like, dude, it's nice to sit down and have a fucking glass of whiskey with some homies and catch up, right?
Yep.
But if you do that too much, it starts to fucking derail a lot of aspects of your life.
Yeah.
You wake up the next day, like you just said, hey, we realize that we're running behind on this, and me and my wife had to stay up for an extra 3 hours, like trying to function on a high level with too much alcohol in your life. It just doesn't fucking work.
Yeah.
And again, like this whole episode is just going to be putting on the tinfoil hat, but everywhere you look, it's fucking liquor and beer and ads for liquor and beer. And it's like, man, they want to act like they're trying to fucking take care of us in so many fucking realms, but every single thing that we're encouraged to put down our mouth to some capacity is fucking killing us. And that's no different, And bro, like, I love Guinness. I wish
a good dark beer is
dude. I
heavenly.
fucking love Guinness, and I went and had a Guinness night. We call it Guinness night because me and my homies will go out and we'll drink a bunch of Guinness. And when I do that, I remember why I love Guinness nights so much. But I have to exercise discipline, and we have Guinness nights maybe once every 6 months at this point, or less. And it's like, if you allow the things that call to you because they taste good or they make you feel good, just be aware of that and have the discipline to partake in a manner which is reasonable. Because how many people's lives are destroyed by drugs or alcohol?
Oh man,
I mean, fucking A, it's countless, right? And it's because they've chosen to not have the discipline to be able to walk that line in a reasonable manner. Oh, well, it's a disease and it's an addiction. It's like, yeah, I get all that. I guarantee you I have that fucking gene in me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I guarantee it, because here's the thing. If I go out drinking, the next day, I want to go drinking again.
Yeah.
Like, it lights whatever that fire is, that addiction inside of me. And like my old man used to have a glass of rum every single night at the end of the day. Right. And like, they say, like, if you have a drink a day, you're an alcoholic. So it's like, I wouldn't say that about my father because he was a fucking stud, but maybe he was, right? But my point is, I think whatever that addictive gene is, I certainly have it. I feel it.
I think everybody has it.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, I don't, it's dopamine, right? It's a good feeling. It's just what triggers that for you.
Yeah.
Is it, those crazy runner girls I saw in college that ate a piece of broccoli and had to run 6 miles, or is it the jujitsu knuckleheads that they just can't? But some people just get triggered by the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Or they find the wrong thing, and you got to pull the nose up.
Yep.
And sometimes you can't. I mean, I know on the last episode, you asked me if I'd struggled with depression or anything. No, but I know some guys that have. And that is a nasty son of a bitch to wrestle with.
Yeah.
And it's easy for me to say, well, you should just make a better decision. But not having lived that, I don't know. But I think when anybody's like, oh, I have an addictive personality, I'm like, so does everybody. We're humans.
Yeah.
Like I think that's just everywhere.
Well, bro, and a lot of people, when I say that, they want to combat it with, oh, you can't just make a choice to not be depressed. You can't just make a choice to not be an alcoholic. And it's like, actually, you can. And don't get me wrong, because I've fucking dealt with depression, dude. I'm not saying that your choice is like, I'm going to be happy today and now everything feels good. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what does depression do to people? It usually makes them inactive. It makes them like be in like a self-loathing state, and they just fucking lay in their bed and they don't do anything, right? That's the choice I'm talking about, of allowing depression to dictate your life. Like, you can go ask my wife, dude. She knows, like, I still deal with it sometimes. And I hate it, because I'll wake up and I'm like, dude, I feel like this heavy weight on me today.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. I feel sadness. And I have no reason to feel sadness, but I feel sadness. And I know if I go do a hard workout or I go do a hard night of jiu-jitsu with the team, that absolves it 100%.
Yeah.
So, like, if you have these problems, figure out things that you can do that are solutions and then implement those. And that's what I say when I say it's a choice. It's not a choice to feel it. I still feel it sometimes, but it's a choice to sit in it.
Yeah.
Because there are ways to get out of it. And if you don't think there are, you haven't learned the ways yet.
So do you remember the Austin Powers movies from back in the day?
Of course.
Remember Fat Bastard?
Yeah.
Do you remember
one of Mike Myers' 15 characters that he played?
But at the end, near the end of one of the movies, he said, I'm sad because I'm fat, and I eat because I'm sad,
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah.
And
100%.
I'm not saying that it's easy to get out of that cycle if it's food or booze or sadness or whatever, but seeing it is huge. But do you know the First In Nutrition guys, Jonathan and Ian Montgomery?
I'm not familiar with them. No. What's their company?
First In Nutrition. They're out of Miami. They're nutrition coaches. He's a retired firefighter. They're both absolutely shredded. But he and I talked a little bit, and he does fitness coaching. And he and I talked for a couple hours on the phone one day. And he said, I'm not trying to tell people you have to eat like this. What I am trying to do is get you to make more better decisions over time.
Yeah.
So he's trying to get you to break whatever that cycle is. If it's eating shit or drinking or not working out enough, he's trying to get you to be more intentional and make more better decisions. And he and I were talking, and I was like, yeah, man, like I'm 3 years into losing a ton of weight. And he goes, yeah, dude, but how long did it take you to get there? He goes, what you're doing is awesome. He's like, but don't ever get discouraged because it's been a couple of years, or it's been this, or it's been that, or you slide a little bit. That's life.
Yeah.
He goes, just remember, make more better decisions more often. And I'm like, holy shit, that's really simple, but it's super helpful if you're, depressed and in bed and you just want to eat, pull the fat bastard card. I eat because I'm fat and I'm sad because I'm fat and all the things. If you skip that once and just go for a walk.
Yep.
I'm not saying go get your blue belt in 6 months and be crazy, but make one different decision. And that starts the opportunity to make a second better decision. And it just comes over time with consistency, back to your original
thing.
That's
the thing. You stack more wins than losses. The trajectory of your life is going to go into a positive trajectory.
Yeah.
Like there's no way around that, you know? It's interesting though, how like it can be depression or fucking lack of physical fitness or just plugging your body full of bullshit food is like, I think there's a lot of people that have never stepped outside of that long enough to see like, oh, this isn't just some fucking like, oh, guys, just talk on the podcast instead of eating pizza, just go for a walk. It's like, that's easy to say, right? But if you do it, I promise you'll feel it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and don't expect it on the first day either. Like, you know, a lot of people are talking hormone imbalances or, as women get older, they have all these things. Well, a lot of people will tell you like, oh, you need to do this supplement. You need to make this change. But they'll also tell you, by the way, if you don't do it for 90 days, we won't know if it helped.
Yeah.
Because there's no such thing as a silver bullet to any of this stuff.
Dude, it's funny you said 90 days because that's always my gold standard for seeing change in yourself. I tell people commit to jiu-jitsu for 90 days or commit to a diet for 90 days. Because, dude, here's the thing. If you look at a 90-day period of time, if it's in front of you, it can feel kind of daunting, right? Mm-hmm. But think about where you're at 90 days ago.
I have no idea. Like you just lose track, right?
But it like, 3 months ago, I was like, oh, that felt like fucking yesterday, right? Like 90 days will come and go before you know it.
Yeah. And
you can implement massive change in yourself in 90 days. And also for me, like, I feel like, and everybody's different, right? But I feel like for me, if I block out certain periods of time, it helps me succeed because it's like, hey, this isn't unobtainable. Like I'll set a date and okay, on December 15th or whatever it may be, I could allow myself a little bit of grace in something. But between now and then, buckle down and be disciplined. And I've went through this cycle enough times to know it's like, oh, it's actually not that hard to buckle down and be disciplined. Mm-hmm. It's not. But you have to do it a time or two to believe in yourself and to know that you can. And so like, dude, start with 2 weeks. Be like, hey, for 2 weeks, I'm not going to eat anything other than whole foods and drink water and black coffee. Yep. Any human being on earth should be able to do that. But for some people, it seems almost unobtainable.
Yeah.
And I think if you block out periods of time, set goals, and then meet those goals, it empowers you. Oh, fuck, next time I'll do 20 days.
Well, and the other thing Jonathan and Ann really talk about, which I thought was awesome, is they're like, okay, you want to get to X weight by X time, whatever you want to do. We're not going to do that in a straight line. You want to go from 200 pounds to 150. Uh-huh. We're going to drop 10 pounds. Then we're going to rest for a month and maintain that.
Yeah.
Then we're going to drop 10 more. They're like, so if you're in a constant state of work, it's unsustainable. And I was like,
well, bro,
oh, I get that.
The biggest loser approach where we just starve you and you work as hard as you can. That's been statistically proven that all that weight comes back.
Yeah.
And you know what else that does? It fills your body. Your body is in a constant state of cortisol.
Yeah.
And like, again, just be fucking consistent. You don't have to try and get to your goal weight in fucking 1 month.
Yeah.
And it's been proven that if you tailor down the intensity a little bit and then actually just have a longer approach, that the results are going to last, as opposed to like these crash diets where you try and obtain something that feels unobtainable. And even if you hit it, it's like, fuck yeah, I got it. Now what? Well, usually what now what's is they yo-yo back.
Yeah.
And it's fucking the Oprah Winfrey diet, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's, Jonathan was also mentioning, he's like, if you can do those steps, and he goes, then you time those recovery periods or the maintenance periods around Christmas. So now you aren't loaded with cortisol for Christmas.
Yeah.
Hey, we're maintaining 190 through Christmas, and in January, we're going to get back after
it.
He goes, we build it around your life, because if it becomes the center point of your life, you breed resentment. You have cortisol. You have a ton of stress. You're not meeting it. Now you're just in a negative spiral.
Yeah.
And he's like, you have to make it attainable. You have to make it sustainable. And you also have to make it palatable for your brain.
For sure.
And I was like, where were you 20 years ago?
I tell people this too, though. That's an important thing to understand. It's like a lot of people's brains are like, oh, it's Christmas. Oh, it's Thanksgiving. Oh, it's my daughter's wedding. It's like, dude, you can go and enjoy the holidays and have a lot of fun and spend time with loved ones and still make good choices.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to just poison yourself because there's an event, right?
Right.
Because that's something I hear all the time. I try and get people to, I have an online accountability program that has, we have like 25 members, and it's one of the things we do is like do these nutritional challenges as a team, because when you have people doing things with you, the accountability aspect of it is a real thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I'll say. It's like, oh, well, my brother's getting married, and it's like, okay, like I get that your brother's getting married and that you want to cut loose and you want to have fun, but also something's always going to be on the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And if the thing on the calendar is impeding you from becoming healthy, you have to ask yourself, what's more important, getting drunk with my brother or changing who I am as a person?
Yeah.
And again, it's a balance, right? Like everything.
Yeah. Well, and you can take a loss if it's strategic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, tactical retreat.
Yep.
But you didn't give up.
For sure, bro.
Like, it's, I had the same thing. My sister-in-law got remarried, and it was, oh, we're going to Paso for the wedding. We're playing golf at Pebble for the bachelor party. I was like, okay, there's no way I'm on the wagon. There's just no effing way. Until I saw that a Tito's and soda at Pebble Beach is freaking $60. I was like, I can be on the wagon for that.
Like, yeah, sobriety sounding real good right now.
Sounding way less expensive.
Fuck, dude, we're already at 2 hours, dude.
Well, let's go get some rolls in.
Before we get rolls in, though, the one thing that you talked about before we started recording is how the government, and again, like, I think this is just an important thing to put out because you're in the food industry.
Yeah.
You have an intimate understanding of this process. How they're talking about, what was the term that you used? Price control or price?
Yeah. Kamala Harris is, somehow she got on the ballot without a primary. That's a whole other conversation for some other time.
Not only without a primary, but when she was part of the primary, she was the lowest performing one out of all of them.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that.
Right. And, she's talking about like food price controls, similar to rent control. Cause she's like, oh, inflation is blah, 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 blah. And it's fascinating for her to think about that. But really, if we wrap that up in a food industry discussion, those price controls are going to ruin people like me because I don't produce at the level of the big four. My cost of production is higher.
Of course.
So,
and bro, they have no fucking idea about any of this because they've never built a company from the ground up like you have. So like they can't even conceptualize all the shit that you have to go through.
Right.
And it's the same thing as like being a landlord.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bro, that little house in the corner of this property, that's my house. And I rent it out to 2 guys.
Right.
And myself and them have come to an agreement on what they're willing to pay for that house month to month. If I were to say, hey, you know what? I actually think that you should pay 4 times that much. They can say, pound sand, I'm going to go move somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can say, hey, you know what? They're actually coaches at this gym and it's convenient or whatever it may be. They can decide if it's going to work or not.
Yeah, they get to determine the value,
right?
Right. The value to them.
How in the fuck have we arrived at a place where we allow the government to tell us the worth of our private property? That's an agreement between two people. And if they don't like I should be able to rent that little fucking 1,200 square foot house out for 15 grand a month. If I find someone that says, hey, you know what? Based on A, B, and C, this house for 15 grand a month makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's preposterous, bro. It's fucking communism.
Yeah.
And we're just about to wrap up and you're getting me all fired up and I have to go teach kids now. But no, that's the truth, man. It's fucking tyrannical for a government to tell your company what they can charge. Because, bro, how many different fucking factors go into you determining prices? How much you pay your employees' wages?
Mm-hmm.
You can fucking talk about it. How many things go into you determining the price of a beefsteak? A lot.
Well, let's just look at the cost to produce beef. And I will do this comparatively with like the major industrial side. And we're going to talk scale of economy, right? The more you do, the cheaper it is.
Mm-hmm.
Those large slaughterhouses can harvest 6,000 a day. We harvest 1,500 a year.
Yeah.
Do you think my costs are 2 to 3x what their costs are to harvest the same steer and put them in a box?
Yep.
Yep. Now, the good news is we are efficient enough on the cattle production side that our cost to produce live cattle is in line with the commercial market. But that's not where the money is made.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong. The fact that you are a much smaller scale operation allows your quality to control to be 10x what those big companies are.
100%.
And so maybe that's what people are paying for.
Well, and like we dry age every animal for 21 days before we break it into steaks. You can't do that in the commercial sector.
Yeah.
You're talking the biggest Amazon warehouse known to man at 34 degrees. I mean, just the real estate problem is crazy.
Yeah.
But it's back to the origin comment. What does our customer pay us for? Our customer pays us for quality. Our customer does not pay us because we're the cheapest. We just can't be.
Yeah.
You can go buy ground chuck at Walmart 10 miles from here for $3 or $4. That's lower than my cost of production. And that is the hard part, because if there is something where Kamala somehow gets in, I hope our country is smarter than that, but
or if they steal the election, since we're wearing our tinfoil hats today.
There is that. But at the end of the day, if someone wants to price fix anything, they're going to take the industrial side with the most data. Yep. And those big industrial producers of whatever it is. Maybe it's ammo, maybe it's toilet paper, whatever. Maybe it's soap. The bigger the company is, the more lobbying dollars they have to make it go their way. So they're going to get more market share. So, I'll leave the listeners, vote with your dollar. If you don't like how a system works, don't fucking buy from it.
Yeah.
I apologize for the swearing. My wife's probably gonna be like, did you have to say that? I'd be like, it's a punctuation mark is what I'm trying to do, is if you don't support something, don't buy from that thing. I mean, I've heard Crystal and Sagar that have been on Rogan like 3 times. They will roast Jeff Bezos and then talk about waiting for their Amazon order. I'm like, you hypocritical bastards. Pick one.
Yeah.
I realize Amazon is convenient. I realize that it's simple to do. But if you're going to rail against something and still support the system monetarily, you're just a talking head.
Yep. For sure, man.
And to that, what I do want to leave people with, this is my final thought. Within the beef industry, all beef is USDA inspected if you're buying it in the States. It's nutritious, it's healthy, it's all inspected the same. And if you want to buy beef at Walmart, I support your ability to do that. And if that is what you can buy because that's what you can afford, you'll never hear a word from us. If you want to pay for something different, you can. We do not demonize the big 4. I think there are definitely some things we could do better there as a country, but we also can't feed everybody without them.
Yeah.
But vote for the system you want to work. If you want to support actual independent ranchers, find one. Not just me. I'm in Colorado. We ship nationally. No problem. But there's good guys in Georgia. There's good guys in California. There's good guys up here. But, to quote Andy, make an informed decision. Not the decision I want, not the decision your neighbor wants. Make it the best informed decision you can for you. and vote with your dollar on the system you want to support. And if you're going to complain about something and not do anything about it, that's called whining. Don't do that.
Yeah. If people are interested in trying Colorado craft beef, what would you recommend? Like, do you have like some kind of starter pack where they get a couple ribeyes, a couple sirloins or whatever? Like,
Yeah.
just, hey, like, I like that guy. He seems to put out good, like his brain works like mine. I want to support his company. What would you recommend people go, and what are their options?
Yeah. If you go to coloradocraftbeef.com, best way to go. I mean, the snack sticks are there. The summer sausage is there, and you can get in for lower price points, because I do know our beef can be a little pricey, especially with the way we have to package it so we can ship efficiently. But a lot of people start with the burger box,
Okay.
15 pounds of ground beef. And I apologize, dude. I did not send you any of the beef bacon. But
I'm going to unfriend you on Instagram.
Right. Well, the beef bacon is absolutely awesome. We're making bacon out of brisket and short ribs.
I've never even heard of beef bacon.
My
life's about to change.
There you go.
But not tonight, unfortunately.
But most common people buy the burger box, they buy the variety box, they buy the griller box. Those are kind of lower price points. You get some selection on steak, you get some burger, and it's kind of just a good mix.
Okay.
You can subscribe and save some money. You can just buy once. We don't require the subscription. But go sign up for the newsletter, because a lot of times, like we did a Jocko box this summer with Jocko, and we dropped something special and it went out through the email list first, so people got first rights.
Okay, cool, man.
Just be a part of the community, and if you just want to support us, that's cool too. So.
All right, man. Well, I got to step on the mats in about 90 seconds. So
Sweet.
I appreciate you coming up, and I'll put all of the links and whatnot in the show notes below, so it can be convenient for people to find you. But again, go check him out. And it's what the country as a whole needs to do, is support good people doing good things. And you're part of that plan. So I appreciate it, man.
You as well, dude. Thanks for the time.
Of course.